woke up this morning and I was like, wow, I really want to play more Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. And I kind of just have to do that on screen. So, here we are. Also, I think I said scream instead of stream. You get what I mean. I think we're right about to hear from the Mad Hatter himself, Mr. McGilded. Let proceedings be resumed. Oh, gotta get back in the voice acting. Mindset. Mr. McGilded, have you been listening to the discourse of the day? To be sure I have, my lord. There are now two matters on which the court desires to hear from you. The first is whether or not there was a third party with you in the omnibus cabin, as proposed by the defense. The second is that if such a person was indeed present, why did you conceal that fact from the police? Begad, no. 'Tis not in my nature to hide anything at all. Just answer the questions, please. The truth of the matter is, I've been desperate about this all along. Do I tell yous all, or keep your mouth shut? Tell us what, Mr. McGilded? The fine fellow represented me is absolutely right. In the carriage on the night with myself and the other man, there was another passenger. It's true. Aye, and 'twas me who helped the little urchin get away after it all happened. Oh? You what? That's interesting. No, Magnus McGilded, that convenient excuse can't save you now. I'm truly sorry, so I am, Lord Van Zieks. I'm sure you'll be wanting to know why I said nothing when I was taken in by the police. I do be having a very good reason, I assure you. Which was? Well, the little child was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and not in any way involved, you see. What? If the police had known the wee one was there, they'd have assumed she'd done it. They'd have hauled her into this here courtroom just like myself. I was only trying to spare her that. Young hearts and young minds are easily damaged, my lord. I mean, it's not incorrect. And who was this young child of whom you speak? That, I don't know. You don't know? Aye, well, the wee thing just happened to be in the carriage that night. I never saw her before or since. We have absolutely no reason to believe this man. The prosecution calls for the witness's statements to be disregarded by the court. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the urchin isn't here in this courtroom as we speak, listening to the proceedings. What? 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 There's a fire, someone's trying to get away. It's no use, I can't see anything at all through this smoke. What is going on? Be careful, Mr. Naruhodo. Cover your face. Bailiff, don't let the accused escape. Secure the omnibus. I hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure the defendant is in custody and clear the courtroom. Oh. We were hurriedly removed from the smoke-filled courtroom by the bailiff, amid scenes of chaos as people stumbled over one another in their desperation to flee the chamber. We had no idea what was happening. All we knew was that, for the time being at least, the trial was suspended. Well, wish I had ended the last stream here at this convenient to be continued, but hey, we're just gonna keep going, because that's what we're all about here. And just go ahead and overwrite that, it's fine. Honestly, I guess I could just be overwriting all of these. But I didn't do that when I played through Phoenix Wright, and I'm probably not gonna do that now. 18th of February, 12:52 p.m., the Old Bailey, defendant's antechamber. What on earth just happened in there? Mr. Naruhodo, I've managed to find out what happened. Mr. Sato, I was told it was an advanced form of smoke grenade, a type of exploding device that releases smoke. A smoke grenade? It sounds like the sort of thing that ninjas use. They're just making sure everything is safe now. I think the trial will start again before long. But who would have done something like that? The police managed to catch someone who was trying to flee the courtroom, apparently. Flee the courtroom? Why? Well, it's a young girl of around 15, I hear. A young girl? Then, could it be the other passenger that Mr. McGilded was just talking about? My thoughts exactly. Well, if she didn't throw a smoke grenade and just left, I feel like that would have been so much better for her. So he wasn't lying. What's become of Mr. McGilden, actually? There's so many things I need to ask him about, but he's not here. I think he was summoned to the prosecutor's antechamber to answer questions, along with the young girl. Who is she, I wonder? And what was she even doing here at the trial? She was taking a huge risk, and for what possible benefit to herself? There's another matter that's troubling me. What's that? The 20 pence. According to the coachman, Mr. Beppo. Yeah? He took 4 passengers that night at a fare of 5 pence each. That comes to a total of 20 pence exactly. But now it seems like there were in fact 5 passengers, which means the figures don't seem to add up again. Well, I mean, she could have just snuck into the omnibus. I don't feel like that's horribly impossible. She's right. That is strange. Counsel for the defense, kindly proceed into the courtroom. The trial will recommence in 5 minutes. Oh, thank you, officer. We'll go right in straight away. Well, whoever she is, I imagine this young girl will be asked to take the stand and testify now. I really can't imagine what she's going to say, but it could alter the whole direction of the trial. Well, we'll know soon enough, Miss Susato. Yes. It could be very interesting. Well, no. Let's turn on this. Yeah. Cool. It was you! Is that the Eldegoss hairstyle from Pokemon Unite, I see? There's the young girl next to Mr. McGilded. Look, she must have been the one who caused the disturbance before.
Well, after that rather eventful recess, the court will now resume the trial of Mr. Magnus McGilded. Now then, Lord Van Zeeks. My lord, I believe you have established the cause of the smoke which veiled proceedings earlier. It seems to have been an advanced form of smoke grenade, of the sort typically employed by the army. Good gracious, the army. But what in the devil's name? It was an elaborate attempt by a young girl to cloak her escape from the public gallery, but she was caught. And now occupies the stand. Your name, girl? Are you responsible for the smoke grenade, which induced such pandemonium here in my court? What is the meaning of this deplorable behavior?
Him. If I may, my lord.
Yes, Mr. McGilded.
I think perhaps I ought to explain here why it is that this wee lass was here in the first place, and why she tried to bolt like that. 'Tis all tied up with the events of that night, so it is.
Very well, Mr. McGilded. Give your testimony. You will explain to the court exactly how this young woman is involved in the case.
Just what did happen that night? It's not like a defense lawyer needs that information or anything. Yeah, came into this totally blind, and somehow I'm doing fine. Young girl. On the night in question, I took the back seat in the omnibus and promptly nodded off. Then, begorra, a loud thud and a wee scream woke me with a fair start. There was a fella collapsed on the floor at my feet, so I sat him up on the seat across from me. Then I turned to find out where the scream had come from, and bless my soul, what did I find? There was a child in there, all curled up in a ball, hiding her wee self away. What? But why was the guy collapsed on the floor?
I remain somewhat baffled, I confess. But from what I gather, on the night in question, this young girl was indeed riding in the omnibus. Is that correct?
'Tis exactly as the defense counsel said. This lass was the 5th passenger, my lord. Huh. So they had a top hat, too?
Very well. The defense may now cross-examine the witnesses. Are you ready, counsel?
Yes, my lord. Or rather, no. I have no idea where to start. I guess it looks like Lord Van Zeeks is just waiting for me to fall into a trap of his own making. Oh, goody goody. Let's see what happens.
Hold it!
Why? So, I mean, man, how quickly do you fall asleep, really? And when you first got on the omnibus, were there any other passengers already on board? There were not. The cabin was empty, and there was no one on the roof deck either.
You were the first passenger, as it were. I see.
Aye, and that's why I took the backside as I did. 'Tis the most comfortable, so it is. Could you explain exactly what you mean by the back seat? By all means. 'Tis how you already described it earlier. I'm talking about the seat opposite the one in which the poor gentleman who was stabbed was sitting. Like I said, 'tis the most comfortable and where I feel most at ease. And of course, I enjoy gazing through the skylight from time to time as well. Alright. Okay, yeah. What is all this? What is the loud thud and the wee scream? A loud thud, you say? A scream? Aye, that's right. How can I explain it? 'Twas like the sound of someone falling to the ground. That sort of noise. So you think it was the sound of Mr. Mason falling to the floor, having been stabbed? Well now, you'll remember I was asleep at the time, so I wouldn't like to say. And when the sound woke me and I opened my eyes, there wasn't a soul to be seen in the carriage but the fella on the floor. Huh. You didn't see anyone, but at the same moment you did hear a scream?
Ah, from the seats above you on the roof deck, I presume.
What above me? No, my lord. 'Twas from inside the cabin. But I wasn't altogether thinking about the scream. No, I was too stunned by the desperate sight before my eyes. Yep.
Hold it!
You sat him up? The victim, you mean? That I did. On the seat across from me, as I said. I could plainly see the poor devil was already gone. And you wouldn't leave a man just lying on the floor now, would you? 'Tis common courtesy, so it is. I mean, but if they're dead, I mean, I wouldn't want to disturb a crime scene.
I find that a little hard to believe.
Ara, Lord of Antiques. Now why would that be?
You wait to find a man lying dead at your feet in a carriage. Any normal person would hail the cabman. Any upstanding member of London society, that is.
Well now, as you know, I'm something of a special line of business.
The business of lending money at exorbitant rates of interest.
Unfortunately, my lord, not everyone is thankful for the help I offer him, and some would even see me dead. So I do try, where at all possible, to avoid getting myself in a tangle with trouble. Are you suggesting you were just going to leave the man there? Heavens alive, no. I was always intended to report it, so I was. Only, I had a mind to find out the whys and wherefores first. Isn't wherefore just why? I'm pretty sure that's like synonymous. The whys and wherefores? Right you are. There were some details I wanted to understand before anyone else got to meddling. That wee scream I heard, for example. Wouldn't your good self do just the same? Huh. Yes, the scream he says he heard at the same time as the thud of the victim collapsing. Hold it! I'm afraid I don't understand. I'm sure you told the court that there was no one else in the carriage except yourself and the victim. Yeah. So I did, sir, so I did. As far as I could see, that is. What do you mean by that? Oh now, 'tis a queer thing. The wee scream I heard as I woke up. It came from, if you'll excuse the vulgar expression, under me backside.
Good gracious.
Under your backside? Well, we did see that the seat that he was on could open and close, so that's gotta be it. And when I lifted the seat on which I'd been sitting, I found there was a wee cubbyhole there for storage. Mr. Naruhodo, we can examine the omnibus ourselves, remember? Yeah, I already did this, Susato. I'm surprised you don't. I'm surprised you don't remember. Yes, of course. The whole bus was submitted as evidence. This would be a very good time to have a thorough look around inside. But I already did. And that's when I found her. Oh, I did just wake up. Oh, blah, blah, blah.
Hold it!
So, this girl was just curled up in there, alright. You say she was hiding herself? Aye, that's right. It was hard to see in the dim lamplight, but she was all curled up in a wee ball. When our eyes met, well, my heart nearly stopped a beating in my chest. You're really overreacting this. Or overacting this. Still in all, I pulled her out from under there, and sat her on the seat opposite so I could have a wee chinwag with her. The seat opposite? That's right, just next to the dead gentleman there.
You sat this young girl next to a corpse, sir.
Well, as I'm sure I mentioned, A gentleman in my position can all too often find himself in mortal danger. So, I needed to find out just who this urchin was, you see. And while I was in the middle of talking with her, I heard another scream. A fella's voice this time. Presumably that scream was Mr. First, who was sitting on the roof deck seats. Right you are again, I would say, sir. Looking down through a skylight, he must have seen this young girl and a gentleman with a knife in his belly.
In other words, the previous witnesses did not in fact see you at all, Mr. McGilded. What they believed to be yourself and the victim was in fact this girl and the late Mr. Mason.
Aye, my lord. I was, as I think everyone understands now, sat at the back of the carriage out of sight. Okay, but what does the girl have to say for this?
It is certainly plausible. The defendant is somewhat diminutive in stature, and readily confused perhaps with this young girl.
After that, of course. With the scream from the gentleman over us, the driver realized something was wrong and pulled up the horses. Yeah, makes complete sense to me.
Thank you. I've heard enough. The events as explained are clear in my mind. However, at least one conundrum remains. Who is the girl?
Her name is Gina Lestrade, my lord. She's a chancer, earns her crust among large crowds, or leaving people out of their purses. What's commonly called a pickpocket. What?
This girl here? A petty thief?
She looks the type. She's got the cap and the vest, and that's all you really need to be a thief in London.
Order! Order! Is this true, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade, you will answer the question. Ah! How dare you! What is the meaning of this?
Oh my god, she did it again.
Ah! The girl! She's gone!
Open your eyes. I'm over here.
Good gracious, how?
What was the point in that little sidestep? I know what you lot are thinking. Grown-ups are all the same. This dirty little dipper, you say, slipped up and got caught on the job. She got herself backed into her corner, so she knifed the gents. Go on, that's what's in your heads, ain't it? No, not at all. This is a court of law. We're here to determine the truth, not cast... Look, knives are for cowards. Only thugs use weapons like that. All I need for what I do is these fingers. I'm a professional, alright. Maybe not in your eyes, but I got pride in what I do. Let me guess, you don't count smoke guns among weapons for thugs? Oh, it is? Yeah, this was in a bag I lifted the other day, down where they keep the four-wheel drags. It's nice, isn't it? I like the pink best.
Ah, do not wave that thing in my direction again.
More wine for the man.
So, you admit that you were riding the omnibus on the night in question?
Tis alright, lass. You can tell him the truth now. Alright, yeah. It's just like the Irishman said. So I think she's supposed to be Scottish, but man, it's hard for me to flip between those accents so readily.
The court accepts this girl, Miss Gina Lestrade, as a valid and significant witness in this case. Accordingly, young lady, we will now hear your testimony, if you please. You will tell the court exactly what happened in the omnibus on the night in question.
Dude, she's got some, like, killer eyeliner going on. Alright, if I have to. So I snuck inside the carriage before they hooked up the horses, just like always. But it was right old waste of time. I got nothing to show for me troubles that night. I'll tell ya. You can't see a blind thing in that. You can't see a blind thing in that hiding place. It's pitch in there. Then after a while, I heard this loud bang. Nearly jumped out of my skin, I did. And the scream just came out. It's because of that this swell found me. He did help me away, mind. Okay, so yeah, he let you go.
I fail to understand why you would let this street urchin go, Mr. McGilded.
Oh, 'tis simplicity itself, my lord. You see, she couldn't possibly have killed the other passenger. I knew that for a fact. How? As I'm sure I said before, sir. I was sitting right on top of the place where she was hiding herself.
I think a demonstration is called for.
This is where I was sat that night. And the cubbyhole of which you have spoken is underneath this seat.
And the cubbyhole of which you have spoken is underneath this seat, I presume. Yes. It does appear just large enough to accommodate someone of the girl's stature.
Aye, but of course, the wee lass was stuck in there. Because I'd parked myself on the seat for the duration.
Ah.
So you see, that's why I let the lass bolt. I knew that if the police found her there, they'd automatically assume she'd done it. But I couldn't live with myself if a young life was ruined when all the time I knew she was innocent.
Even though you must have realized your action would result in your own innocence being called into question.
Not at all, my lord, not at all. I knew in my own heart that I was innocent. So I thought it was worth taking a punt on my own good name for the sake of this less fortunate lass. My goodness. What a perfect gentleman.
My lord, this fine example of a man cannot possibly be guilty of a heinous crime like this. I'm ashamed of myself for ever doubting you, sir.
Oh yeah, I forgot that you had voted guilty at some point. With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time.
Huh. Well, this is certainly a turn of events. Saints alive! All 6 members of the jury consensual in their leaning to a verdict of not guilty?
Well, what happens now? That can't just be the end of the trial, right? Mr. Naruhodo, well, it must mean what? That we're victorious! That can't be right. We've won? Are you sure? How freaking dramatic can you be?
If the sight of my iron-heeled Wellington offends, pray, do forgive the discourtesy.
Huh?
This really is a consummate example of the one monumental flaw in British judicial practices. Where evidence and reasoning should be paramount, emotion rules the day.
Emotion?
The witness's latest statement gives us a clear insight into his true nature.
What do you mean, his true nature?
Do you really think Scotland Yard would have made such a glaring omission?
What are you talking about?
After the incident, the omnibus was comprehensively searched by officers of the police. Obviously, the interior of this cubbyhole, as the witness put it, was included in their investigation.
Okay, yeah.
The compartment under the posterior seat was full of the coachman's belongings. It's noted in black and white here in the police report. Good lord. The evidence has been tampered with. In order to corroborate Mr. McGilded's story, someone has unlawfully removed everything from under the seat.
What? Okay, when I looked in there, like, I saw a ton of things under the seat.
Order! Order! How could such a devious contrivance possibly have been effected, counsel? Naturally, we must acknowledge the deficiencies of the constabulary in allowing this to have happened. However, I assure you, when the omnibus was wheeled into the courtroom this morning, the compartment under the seat was not empty. Well, my Japanese friend...
Me?
When the carriage was submitted as evidence, doubtless you examined it in fine detail, as would any self-respecting practitioner of the law.
I did. I don't know if the game remembers, but I certainly did.
Pray, what did you find the condition of the underseat compartment to be?
Oh, to be sure. The young gentleman will be able to clear this up in a jiffy. Sorry? Go ahead. You tell the court now, fella. Oh, this is all an elaborate excuse by the desperate Lord Van Zieks? Excuse me, Mr. McGilded?
Well, counsel, do you have something to say on this matter?
how am I supposed to answer? What can I say about the state of that little compartment under the seat in the omnibus? Well, I did look, and it certainly wasn't empty. I'm gonna tell the truth, because that's what being an attorney is all about. I really don't know if giving this answer is helping my cause as counsel for the defense, but as far as I remember at least, when I first examined the compartment, I'm fairly certain there were a number of articles inside it, yes.
Are you sure, counsel?
Ara, be whist. What are you saying now, you daft daw? I thought you were on my side here. I'm on the side of truth, first of all, Mr. McGilded. That's the important part.
What game are you playing? Your task is to defend the man in the stand. Why would you say something to compromise his position?
I have to say the truth? What are you talking about? As the advocate for the defense in this trial, I confess I'm still not entirely sure where I stand, but it seems to me that I should state what facts I do know as clearly and honestly as possible. You're god-dang right. Interesting. 'Tis not altogether pleasing, fella. I'm simply telling the truth, Mr. McGilded. Well, don't forget that you're supposed to be representing my best interests here, lad. Now then. A fella's memory is a curious thing, and not altogether reliable. No, the court must consider the facts. That there cubbyhole under the seat is as empty as the devil's heart, so it is. Do you think perhaps it would be in your best interest to now admit that you might have been mistaken? Why? Why do I feel like something's not right here?
I should like the jury to weigh in on this matter, I think.
That compartment is designed to house equipment used to maintain the smooth running of the carriage. The Guild's rules state that omnibuses should be properly and fully equipped at all times. So, it certainly wouldn't have been empty on the night in question. Beppo isn't that irresponsible. That money-lending fleecer and the pick purse are lying. Alright. I mean, yeah, this is really gonna change things, huh? I can't believe I can't believe I was nearly taken in. The stinking rich are always stinkers. That's a little... Nothing but cowards, a lot of them. I just have Irish accent on the mind. What? Oh no. It's a trick. Of course it's a trick. Quite so. I must concur here. Alright, we're already back to half and half. With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time. Yes, but every time a different truth, it seems. Hey, you keep switching between guilty and not guilty. Like, are you really using calculated reasoning?
My lord, I humbly exhibit the scales of justice. Clearly, a verdict of not guilty at this time would be wholly inappropriate. Thank you, counsel. But before we proceed any further, there is the matter of the outstanding cross-examination.
Wow. I still have to cross-examine this? It's been like forever.
Counsel for the defense, begin your questioning of the witness, please.
Yes, my lord. What just happened? The whole balance of the trial just shifted almost beyond recognition. The Reaper of the Bailey is at work, it would seem. That's him. That's the Reaper of the Bailey right there. Alright, let's cross-examine this. Yeah, but you do it just like always? You know what, I'm probably gonna press every statement you have because I'm really curious about the whole situation. So, you were already in the omnibus before it even set off on its run. Well, yeah. I mean, what's the point of spending a joey to make a few bob, eh? That's sort of my idea, ain't it? I suppose she means there's no point spending money to make money. It actually makes sense. No, it doesn't. I've played RuneScape. You have to spend money to make money.
Counsel, may I remind you that this girl is a petty thief? Kindly refrain from entertaining her tenants.
Well, that does clear up the little mystery of the fares and all. 4 paying passengers at 5 pence apiece, making the 20 to which the cabman testified. And 1 little scapegrace riding for free. The red conch of a driver always goes for some grub before his last run, you see. So that's when I slip into the carriage and get myself hidden under the seat. Nice and easy, right?
But your hiding place is a storage compartment, full of equipment for the coach, no?
Yeah, there are brushes and buckets and whatnot in there, sure. I always chuck all that out and cram it in a corner somewhere. No one ever seems to bother much.
And yet, according to the report filed by the police officer who first arrived at the scene, the compartment was full of such paraphernalia.
Well, I don't know nothing about that. Like I said, I moved all that stuff out so I could hide under the seat. That's all I can tell you.
Did McGilded hire this girl? It seems we've reached the end of that line of inquiry. Continue.
Well, obviously, you were hidden in a storage compartment. A waste of time? Why is that? Well, most nights I'm on my own in the God permit. Wait. Well, most nights I'm on my own in the God permit at least some of the time.
I beg your pardon? Did you say God permit?
Oh yeah. Well, that's what my kind call it. You'd say the omnibus, I suppose. The point is, any normal run, the carriage ain't got one in it for a while. And that's when you come out of your hiding place and get away? That's it. Only that night. This cove was sat on me seat from the start. And he didn't budge the whole way, did he? Not 1 inch. I was totally stuck.
Do you mean to tell us that you were present in the carriage for the duration? You were under the seat the entire time while events unfolded in the enclosed cabin?
Yeah? Right, mister? To be sure, to be sure. I was just as shocked as anyone. You don't expect to lift the cushion you've been sat on and find a child now, do you? So this Miss Lestrade couldn't possibly be the culprit then. But... Hold it! Then how is this going to lead us to a good place, you know? That's really the question. So you couldn't see out into the cabin at all? Not a jot. Most days I push the cushion up with me head and look out the crack. Then I can have a butcher's at who I'm gonna fiddle. I thought you were a pickpocket, not a butcher. I mean, I can have a look. The seat I get under ain't as plush as the other ones, see. So most of the time, the passengers plant themselves opposite. But for some reason that night, this here Irishman spent the whole journey right over me head. And for that reason, you weren't able to push the cushion up to peek out. I see. Truth is, I ain't too happy in small dark places. Feels too much like being thrown in the clink. But it's the only place to hide in them carriages, so it's Hobson's choice. Why doesn't she just stick to picking people's pockets in the open then? Yeah, a little weird, right? I'd say there's some reason that she's not letting on, judging from her demeanor. So anyways, I was a bit scared, but I had to stick it out and under there. Nothing else for it. Okay, sure. Yeah, so this is when the guy was stabbed and fell to the floor, I guess. When you say a loud bang, do you mean the noise of someone falling to the floor? Could have been, I suppose. I don't remember so well. Point is, it made me jump. And you let out a scream, involuntarily? That's right. And then I felt the cushion over my head get lighter all of a sudden. Presumably when the defendant got up in order to help the victim, yeah.
Or not. It could equally have been the moment the accused stood in order to stab his victim, could it not? Well, girl, did you see what happened at that crucial moment?
Of course she didn't, right? Oh, never mind. Yeah, I saw it. I pushed up the cushion and had a quick butcher's while I had the chance, didn't I? The Irishman was sitting up the bloke what had fallen on the floor and on the seat opposite. Just like what Mr. McGilded said. That matches Mr. McGilded's account, of course. But then, the fellow suddenly turns around and looks right at me. I sunk back down again, but it was too late by then. I should never have risked looking. Well, you did, though. Hold it! Okay. This, so far, has not given me any new information, really. And when Mr. McGilded discovered you, he pulled you out from your hiding place? I was scared stiff, I was. He dragged me out and sat me down in the seat and all. Next to the victim, Mr. Mason? Yeah. The bloke had a knife in his guts. He was still bleeding. Then the carriage lurched a bit and he ended up falling onto me. How awful. Both my hands got covered in blood. It made me feel sick as a dog. Both her hands covered in blood. That must have been what the rooftop passengers saw. After that, I believe you talked with Mr. McGilded for a while. Is that correct? He asked me some stuff. Wanted to know me name and what I was up to and that. Then I heard something from up above. Someone screamed.
Yes, Mr. First on the roof deck, one would presume.
Well, I didn't want no one seeing me face, so I didn't look up. And the horses were drawn up smartish, and this here Irishman says to me, "Get back under the seat. I'll see that you can get away later." All 6 members of the jury had decided the defendant was innocent.
For one brief shining moment, yes.
It's clear that they are all still very unsure. If we could just find some conclusive piece of evidence among this new testimony, I'm sure we would clinch the verdict we want. Yes, I think you're right. And I have this niggling feeling. Something's bothering me, but I just can't quite put my finger on it. Huh. Okay, well, let's take a look at the evidence I have access to, right? Yeah, I don't think the autopsy report's helpful. Obviously my armband isn't. The crime scene photo. I'm not sure that I see anything super weird here. That's the defendant's gloves. I don't need to take another look at those. The murder weapon. Like, where would she have gotten this knife, right? If she had done the murder. So probably what I need to look at, again, is the omnibus. But yeah, I guess I'll just have to go inside and take another look. I already did look in here, though. Well, let's open the door and go inside, shall we? Ugh, scene of a murder. So, oh, there is blood on the floor. That wasn't there before. That's blood, isn't it? Is something wrong? Oh, it's just, well, this blood stain is so obvious, that's all, and yet Van Zieks has made no mention of it. I suppose that does seem a little strange. Why do I have such a bad feeling about this? Yeah, that's not... This scene has been altered. This bloodstain wasn't there before. Yeah. I wanted to search the cubby. Yeah, and now the cubby's empty. So I guess they altered the scene after the smoke grenade went off. There's a storage compartment, but there's nothing in here. It's totally empty. Something doesn't seem right here, but I can't put my finger on what it is. Yeah, I can't... Why did you alter the scene of the crime? That's only gonna make you look more guilty. Come on, now. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Sure. Well, I'm kind of confused. Am I supposed to keep pressing on stuff? Because it's not like any of this is contradictory. You can't see a blind thing in that hiding place. It's pitch in there. But I hear the slap bang. Nearly jumped out of my skin. Huh. Let's go back through this. Oh no, we already talked about this, I guess. Conclusive evidence. Well, do I need to look even more inside the carriage? Because I'm not sure what I need to present to the witness. Yeah. Sure. I mean, this seat looks totally normal otherwise. Yeah, I guess I don't have anything else to see in here. But I know sometimes in these games, sometimes you have to press a later statement and then go back to press... Oh, Phoenix Wright Omnibus. I didn't see that before, that's cute. Alright, let's just go back to pressing every statement. Maybe something new will happen. Yep. Yeah, he's totally unperturbed. I don't know if Mr. McGilded is actually gonna react to these in an interesting way. Alright. Yeah, there's a show for me troubles. I'm definitely missing something here. Like, I feel like there's stuff in her, in what she says during a press, that I would like to contradict, just a little bit. But the actual statements of the testimony, I'm not so sure. And does Rinosuke talk about how something might be a little spooky? How is she able to afford that great eyeliner? My goodness.
Well, no.
Oh! I don't remember this having been a thing before.
Excuse me.
Is something wrong, Mr. McGilded? Oh, I do apologize. Was there something the matter with the council? I'm just wondering if Miss Lestrade's last comment made something occur to you, perhaps. You seem to be thinking something to yourself. Oh, no. 'Twas nothing important. I was feeling bad for the poor lass is all. I remember feeling desperate myself as a young lad, shut up in the dark. 'Twas terrifying, so it was. I see. Yes, I'm sure we can all sympathize. I'm still scared of the dark now. Aye. I don't know about yourself, but I find that the darkness seems to make everything you hear seem that much louder as well. Yeah. I suppose it does, maybe. Miss Lestrade, did you hear something that night? Anything? An unusual noise, perhaps? Nah, not really. All I could hear was the Irishman snoring. But jabers, there's no need to tell the whole world of me foibles, you little scamp. What a pity. If only Miss Lestrade had heard something, it might have given us a vital new clue. Yes. What should we make of that last statement of hers? I mean, it's probably profoundly important. My lord, I believe the statement just made by the witness is profoundly important.
Profoundly important, but all she said was that she'd heard nothing.
Yes, which is the profoundly important point. I'm almost sure of it.
I'm almost sure that I don't understand the inner workings of your Eastern mind, Counsel. Nevertheless, Miss Gina Lestrade, you will supplement your formal testimony by repeating that last statement, please.
What? Supplement? What are you on about? Don't give me all your fancy talk. I know what you're trying to do. It won't work on me. That's right. Insult the judge. Always a good move. I was straining my ears to work out what was going on, but all I could hear was snoring. Let's press it. I'm interested to hear more about this. So you were straining to hear what was happening the entire time, since the moment you hid yourself? Not exactly, no. Sorry? Well, there was no one else in the cabin to start with. I could just push the cushion up and have a butcher's to see what was what. But then, when I saw this swell getting on, I got my head down so he didn't notice me. And Mr. McGilded sat on the seat under which you were hiding, correct? Yeah! Wouldn't you hide him in either? What a mug! So then all I could do was listen. I was waiting to jump out of there as soon as I heard him leave, see? But would he? Not likely. Even though he stopped here and there, I never heard the door open. So I just had to stay put and listen to him driving his pigs to market, snoring like an old dog he was. Huh. Are there any conclusions we can draw from that, I wonder? I mean... Yeah, it just doesn't add up. I don't know why it doesn't add up, but I'm gonna say it doesn't add up. Miss Lestrade, what you have just told the court is clearly at odds with the facts. Ah.
At odds, are you sure, ma'am?
Absolutely.
It seems my learned Japanese friend is not as dull-witted as I feared.
So Van de Zeeks realized it too.
Counsel, I must insist that you bolster your claim with evidence, or some complicit party's name at the very least.
Yes, my lord.
I expect you to demonstrate this alleged contradiction to the court.
According to Miss Lestrade, whilst she was hiding in the omnibus that night, she heard nothing but the sound of Mr. McGilde's snoring. But think, Rinosuke, think. There's something else she should have heard. Well, she should have heard the guy fall, right? Yeah, because it wouldn't have been the scream from the rooftop, right? There's something else she would have heard. I assume it would have had to be the guy falling. Yeah. It would have had to have been that, right? But at this point, I'm not so sure. I'm gonna go ahead and save just to be safe. Alright. Yeah, I don't think there's anything on the omnibus that needs to be shown. Yeah. Yeah, that's, nothing of that screams, I hear this. Alright, yeah, I mean... I guess I'll just go ahead and present the victim. Very well, my lord. Allow me to elaborate. On a particular sound that Miss Lestrade could not have failed to hear on the night in question. The sound very clearly explained by the presence of the following person. Well... yeah, I'm gonna say the thrice-fired Mason, I guess. Yeah. Alright. Is this right?
Take that!
Thrice-fired Mason.
Yes, my lord. The sound that Miss Lestrade cannot have failed to hear is that of the victim, Mr. Mason, boarding the omnibus.
Order! Order! Explain your reasoning, counsel.
Miss Lestrade, allow me to confirm something. You claimed earlier that you were the first person on board the omnibus, is that correct? Yeah, of course I was. I got on while the driver was in the pub, didn't I? And the next person to board the omnibus was Mr. McGilded. That it was. Not as hole in the cabin was when I climbed aboard. At least, not in plain sight. So you were, to all intents and purposes, alone in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus at that time. Did I not just say as much? I wasn't traveling with anyone else, if that's what you mean. Yeah, I saw him get on, remember? Through the crack under the seat cushion. He was on his own for sure. And from what we've heard, the carriage made a number of stops after that on its onward journey, during which time did you not hear the door opening or closing at all? No, I never heard it. That's exactly what I was listening for, weren't I? I'm waiting for this swell to leave. Well, I got it right on accident. In which case, when and how did the victim end up in the carriage? Ah. We know that the victim collapsed inside the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. Therefore, Miss Lestrade's statement about what she did or did not hear is at odds with the facts. Ah. You know, he's right. I can't say he's wrong at all.
Yes, this petty thief statement was clearly flawed. Lord Van Zieks.
Yes, he knew. He knew all too well that there was an inconsistency in Miss Lestrad's statement.
It would seem words of thanks are in order for my learned friend.
What are you talking about?
You have demonstrated matters impeccably. This witness and her colorful statements are entirely unreliable. Her words are convenient untruths, nothing more.
Well then.
He's dead, right? How could the victim possibly...
It does make no sense whatsoever. This girl's a pickpocket, let's not forget that. Oh no, the old lady's ready to bring down the gavel. Ah, she didn't even say anything.
I didn't want to judge the dear little mite just because she had some rather naughty ways. But I must say, I can't abide liars.
Neither can I.
Mr. Foreman.
I didn't want to judge this girl just because she had some less than salubrious ways, but I must say, I cannot abide liars.
Alright, yeah. Mr. Naruhodo, that's 5 jury members leaning towards guilty. Only the maid doesn't want to do guilty just yet. You've poured like 2 wine bottles worth of wine already.
Well, your consideration for others is refreshing, my Japanese friend. To the considerable troubles you have spared me.
Hey, I'm just looking out for the truth. Are you doing the same?
Yes, very refreshing.
Ah! What are you playing at? Have you forgotten who you're working for, you useless Eastern Abadan? This is carnage. It's perfect. Juror number 2 is the only one left. Mr. Naruhodo, the way this is going, I know. If we can't find some new way to convince everyone of Mr. McGilden's innocence, the judge will rule and we'll have lost. I very much want to believe the words of one of London's most respected gentlemen, but those of us in service know we must accept hard truths.
Hold it!
Yes, the witness's last statement seems to have revealed a critical inconsistency in her story. However, if we consider the possibility that her statement is in fact the truth, it may shed light on an entirely new light on this whole case.
What are you saying?
Counsel? I'm sorry, sir. Whatever do you mean?
Counsel, I will not tolerate you attempting to prorogue my adjudication. Explain yourself at once. When the accused boarded the omnibus on the night in question, the victim was nowhere to be seen. Subsequently, the carriage door was not heard opening a single time, as testified by the witness in the stand. And yet the victim's body was found inside the carriage. If the petty thief's words are to be believed, how do you explain the victim's miraculous appearance inside the cabin of the omnibus? That's a good point.
There's only one way to explain how the victim came to be inside the carriage. He was put there after he died. Honestly, I was thinking that the same thing. But there's another entrance. I'm pretty sure you can't get in through the skylight. I'm like almost positive you can't get in through the skylight. He was in there already. He was in there already. How? How would he have been in there already? I'm just trying to think if there's like any possible way for that to be the case. Like he was under the seat. Well, okay. let me actually just take another look at the carriage. I want to make sure that there's not another entrance. Like you can use the skylight to get in. I think they said it wasn't a hatch, right? You can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin. So I'm sure the witnesses would have been able to see quite clearly. That's not good for us. Okay, but can you get in through that? Oh, that looks like a latch right there. Can I examine that? Oh, I guess I can't examine it, but that definitely looks like a latch. So maybe there is another entrance. Huh. I'm actually going to go ahead and say that. If the door wasn't opened even once, the only explanation is that the victim entered the enclosed cabin some other way.
I wonder what new fantasy you would come up with in your blind panic.
But behold, the omnibus is here for all to see. Only one side of the enclosed cabin is furnished with a door. The other has only windows. Fixed windows, which cannot possibly open. In short, there is no entrance to the cabin other than the door. But there could be. There's one possibility you haven't considered. Oh, really? Yes, one other way inside that isn't the door. Another opening, the use of which allowed the victim to appear inside the enclosed cabin.
All right, counsel. The defense will identify the location for the court. Here is the omnibus on which the incident occurred. Where on earth is this entrance by which you propose the victim entered the cabin?
Well, of course it's right here.
Take that!
The skylight itself. The answer is obvious. It can only have been the skylight.
I say, the skylight?
Objection!
Your ludicrous proposal almost has me at loss for words. However,
the skylight may well be large enough for someone to pass through.
so you claim, but do you have a shred of evidence to support your addle-brained theory?
Both Mr. McGilded and Miss Lestrade said the same thing in their testimonies. They each claimed to have heard a loud thud, such as the noise made by somebody falling to the floor.
Yes, which has already been explained, as the sound of the victim falling from his seat having been assaulted with the dagger.
Yes, it has, but would a man slipping from the seat onto the floor really have made such a loud noise as the witnesses described? A loud noise, or a noise loud enough to cause Miss Lestrade to let out an involuntary cry, in fact.
Good gracious.
Perhaps, in fact, that was the moment that the victim made his entrance into the cabin. No, let me rephrase that. The victim didn't enter the cabin as such. He fell into it.
You're now suggesting that the victim fell from the skylight into the cabin.
That's simply impossible. Yeah, didn't Beppo say that he climbed into the cabin? How can you be so sure?
Because if the victim had fallen inside through the skylight, as you say, the passengers on the roof deck would have seen it happen. And yet, not one person made mention of such events in their testimony.
Well, yes, that's true, but... Might a humble fella make a wee comment here? Mr. McGilded? To be sure now, the two fellows who were sat on the roof of that testified afore said nothing of the victim falling through the skylight. But it seems to me, my lord, that 'tis not so much a case of them not saying, but... Aye. 'Tis a case of them being unable to say. What? I think perhaps the two fellas do be having something of a compelling reason not to mention what happened. Would you not agree, fine ladies and gentlemen of the jury? Oh, my goodness, surely not. Those two chaps on the roof. You mean the ones who stuck the knife in the man were... Ah! But... they're back.
Just what exactly are you insinuating here, you blitherer?
You rodder, he said. You rodder. Oh, what are you insinuating? This is a flaming outrage. I've a good mind to give you a blinker in a minute. Hey, he'll give you a shiner in a minute, he said. And so will I. Mr. Fairplay, you're effectively accusing me, a city gentleman and a well-respected banker. And me, a very angry hatter. Suggesting that someone like me could have stabbed that man in the guts, it's a disgrace. It's scandalous. I protest in the strongest possible terms. That's right, I protest too. About you, you rotten scoundrel. Wow, this has really changed things. Okay.
Order! 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 This is not the time, witnesses. I will not permit this wanton invasion of the stand. Return to the anteroom at once.
But what is beyond reason, my lord?
It's outrageous!
It's very hurtful, you know. My lord, if I may comment.
Go ahead, Lord Van Zieks.
It was the defense that incited this outburst from the witnesses. My learned friend has seen fit to abandon all protocol and accuse the witnesses without proof. Accuse? I never intended to... It seems, young Japanese, that your command of the English tongue is wanting. You proposed to this court that the victim fell through the skylight from the roof deck of the omnibus. That hypothesis cannot possibly stand without the rooftop passengers being aware of the events. You have branded these gentlemen liars. You have intimated their criminal guilt. In our British courts of law, this is what is deemed a baseless accusation. I know I was rash to put this idea forward without any actual evidence, but you can't just dismiss it without a second thought. What are we wasting time for? Get them to testify. Yeah, let's hear some testifying. Let's go.
I thought there was something fishy about that hat from the moment I laid eyes on the fellow.
We have to see this matter through now, one way or another.
If there's filth and rubbish in our midst, we must dispose of it at once.
What's happening, Mr. Naruhodo? The spectators in the public gallery are... they're in a complete frenzy.
Mr. Fairplay and Mr. First. My lord? You will take the stand again and make another formal testimony in reference to the indictment brought by the defense. Yes, my lord.
I didn't come here for this. There's no time to think this through. All I can do is keep pushing forward. Alright, hopefully there's going to be something contradictory, but I don't know. We were the only two people up on that roof deck, dead or alive, I can swear to that. If anything had happened while we were sitting, don't you think one or the other would have noticed? In any case, neither of us knew the first thing about the victim. We had no reason to kill the man. I think that's the statement that I'm gonna press on. The skylight was shut the entire time, I tell you. We couldn't possibly have opened it.
If you're so sure the victim fell through the skylight, where's your proof?
I don't know if you can have a question in a formal testimony, but
I must say that on listening to this testimony, it is somewhat hard to imagine how either witness could have performed any malevolent act on this open roof deck without the other noticing forthwith.
That's right, you see? We're innocent, I tell you.
Although, logically, of course, the argument falls down if the two of you were in collusion with one another.
What?
Eh?
According to investigations by Scotland Yard, the two witnesses share no common dealings.
Ha! Well, I don't trust coppers any more than I trust the stinking rich. Something doesn't feel right here. The trial is going in our favor, really, so why do I feel so uneasy?
Counsel for the defense, over to you. Your cross-examination, please.
Oh, yes, my lord. Alright. So, let's talk about what you said, having not known the victim. Because I think that's the really interesting part. Yeah. Because it looks like Mr. First over here made the guy's hat.
Hold it!
So, you had never met Mr. Thrice-Fired Mason before?
Oh, lum, no, not once, never.
He'd never met the man before, he said. Never. And you, Mr. First, had no prior dealings with the victim either? That's right, sir. Hatters don't have much to do with brickmakers, to be perfectly honest, sir.
No, I imagine not.
You see, how many different ways can I put this? Neither of us have had the remotest connection to the gentlemen who were inside the cabin.
Oh, Mr. McGilded, you got something you want to talk about? Mr. McGilded?
Yes, counsel.
What can I be doing for you? Did the witness's last statement give you pause for thought somehow? Not the remotest connection. Is that right now? I wonder.
What are you insinuating now?
Ah. Mr. Fairplay, it has been too long, so it has.
Eh?
If I'm not very much mistaken, I believe 'tis fast approaching, is it not? Your repayment date.
I beg your pardon?
You borrowed 20 guineas from me, sir.
At an unconscionable rate of interest. You tricked me. It's extortion.
Well now, is that a touch of begrudgery, is it? The sort of begrudgery that might motivate a fella to pass his crimes off on another.
Ah.
And, young Mr. First. Me, sir? What do you mean? You do mean making hats for a living, do you not? That there top hat sliding about on your head, is that one of your own creations, is it? Oh, well, I'm just an apprentice, you understand. I'm learning to find the perfect fit for whatever fine gent walks through the door. A perfect fit, is it? Well, 'tis a very distinctive design, so it is. Many customers like it, I tell you. They like a distinctive touch. Customers such as Thrice-Fired Mason. Ah, he knows. There was a photographic print of the victim submitted as evidence afore, my lord.
This, you mean?
Yeah, that hat is distinct. I can't help but thinking that the poor fellow's hat looks distinctly familiar, wouldn't you say? Oh. That's one of my hats. Aye, so it is. So it would seem the brickmaker was a customer of yours. The sort of customer, I'd wager, you could have had a wee quarrel with over the distinctiveness of the goods. Oh no, sir. Absolutely not, sir. Well, there's really nothing more to add. It wouldn't be right to say that the two fellas here had the remotest connection to the victim, you see. The little hand wave. I rest my case.
You little weasel. Ah.
He's better at this than I am. Gosh, Mr. McGilded has certainly been been thorough in his research, hasn't he? Yeah, he knows what he's here for. Please, don't let me little interruption hold up the proceedings.
Hold it!
Are you quite certain about that? That the skylight was shut the entire time?
I'm going to lose my block with you in a minute.
He's going to lose his rag with you in a minute. That's what he said.
Take a look at it for yourself. Go on. You see? It's shut fast now, just like it was on the night.
So it is, of course. A fellow the size of Mr. Mason could likely break through it and steal it all.
What?
Just looking at the size of the thing, you understand.
Ah, now you hold on there a minute, sir. The size of the ting means nothing. Not on its own. Let's consider the bigger picture here, shall we?
Let's stop biting our cane, shall we? I was riding the omnibus on another occasion when, well, I broke wind, loudly. I shocked myself with it as it happens.
This is an unexpected confession, Mr. First.
Oh, I just mean to say, well, the point is, I tried to open the skylight, you see. But, just my luck, I couldn't make it budge. The stench was terrible. Everyone was looking daggers at me, sir. I went as red as rouge, I did.
Are you expecting me to sentence you?
Oh, no, sir. The point is, the skylight can't be opened. I tried and tried when I was inside that cabin of shame. Oh, the girl's got something to say.
Excuse me.
do you have something to add to that, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade? It opens. The skylight. That is what we're talking about, right? All them skylights open dead easy. More easily than you can load that weapon? That's a lie, I tell you. Otherwise, when I broke wind, I can't do it from inside, you mug. Oh. Look, a few weeks ago, I was up on the roof deck of one of them drags, and I had a great haul. I mean, I had purses coming out me ears.
Miss Lestrade, that is not the form to be eulogizing on the subject of your criminal activities.
Well, anyway, I had a bit of a scare. When I lifted the last bloke's purse, he got wise to me. All four of them surrounded me, so I couldn't up the bus and leg it. So what I did was I used a skylight, opened the hatch and jumped right through. What? Yeah, the catch for them skylights is on the top side. That's why you can't open them from the cabin. The skylight opens from the roof deck.
Bailiff, climb up onto the roof of the omnibus at once and verify this witness's claims.
I see the little latch. I noticed that. Yep, upon examination. There we go. Oh my head. Say. Easy freaking peasy.
Order, order, order! So, it appears that this street girl's statement is quite true.
I don't believe it. The skylight opens. From the roof deck. Mr. Naruhodo. This could be the clue we've been looking for.
Well, counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. So, the skylight opens. Perhaps I could investigate for myself.
If you're so sure the victim fell through the skylight, where's your proof?
Well, I'll have to think of that in a second. Wonder if these two men really were involved in some way. I couldn't say. I mean, I don't really know anything about them, do I? Although, by the same token, I don't really know anything about Mr. McGilded either. It's so hard to know what to believe here. I think we should try to remember that it's evidence alone that can truly determine the outcome of the trial. Evidence. No one can argue against decisive evidence, including the members of the jury.
So, you're saying that what we need now is to find a conclusive piece of evidence?
Yes, Mr. Naruhodo, precisely.
We were the only two people up on that roof deck, dead or alive, I can swear to that.
Yeah, okay. Well, there's proof that he fell from the skylight. I mean... Well, is there proof he fell from the skylight? Like, does he, It doesn't look like his body is super banged up or anything. Huh. Yeah, the leather gloves. Alright. I think really the only proof that I would be able to give is the omnibus itself. Can I just present the omnibus as evidence? Is that cool?
Objection!
Nope, this is definitely wrong. Alright. Well. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. There's nothing striking about it.
What does strike me is your propensity for the inane, however.
Whoopsie. Oh wait, am I supposed to press this? Proof.
That's right, I demand to hear it.
We came here to say what we saw, I tell you, not for this.
But you call us both shysers.
You call us liars, that's what he means, and accuse us of doing it. As it stands at the moment, there is no hard evidence that incriminates these sailors now, is there? I believe we're in much the same position as one another here.
Ah!
If I don't crack this case soon, he'll crack his teeth on that cane. Yeah, it's pretty intense. I wonder if these two men really were involved in some way. I couldn't say. I mean, I don't really know anything about them. Okay, yeah, let's get through this. I'm gonna press their earlier statements just to make sure that there's nothing I'm missing here.
Hold it!
So, at no time did the victim, Mr. Mason, climb up to join you on the roof deck?
Absolutely not, Dickon.
No question about it, he said. Not at all. Oh, but yes, of course. I remember seeing them both. I saw the victim inside the enclosed cabin talking with this man here.
Is this true, Mr. McGilded?
Dear me, my lord, at the risk of repeating myself, I boarded the omnibus alone and nodded off inside almost immediately.
That's an outright lie. Without doubt, you were engaged in...
Let me stop you there, fella, and ask, do you have any evidence at all?
Ah,
'Tis all about evidence in courts these days, so it is. You do well to remember that.
You got a good point.
I saw you with my own eyes.
This is going so well.
Hold it!
Hold it! Well, it was on the final run of the omnibus at past 10 o'clock in the evening. It would certainly have been quite dark, perhaps too dark to see clearly?
Is this some kind of a lock?
This is some kind of a joke, he said. Is that what it is? Or perhaps one or the other of you fell asleep briefly?
Are you fair dinkum, sir?
Are you serious, sir? That's what he said. It's impossible, I tell you.
I'd give you the keys to the vault if you could fall asleep in that bitter cold. And if you did manage it, your eyelids would freeze shut and you'd never open them again.
That's kind of extreme, yeah. It was extreme, I tell you, and we had to put up with it because this old man had locked the door. Any true gent would have unlocked it and let me in when I knocked. I'm really sorry about that, young fella. But you see, I was away with the fairies and didn't hear you at all. That's a lie. I saw you through the glass. You were talking to someone. Now, 'twas a cold night, so it was. People do be seeing things that aren't real in the cold. 'Tis hardly surprising. Saying things. Man, they really don't like each other up there.
I believe we have reached an impasse here on this particular point.
Ah, you! Don't take it personally now, lad. If I'm a suspect in this case, then 'tis only fair that you and I are the other fiend are too. Open and free competition is what a capitalist society is all about. I mean, yeah, I guess. This isn't a competition I should like to be involved in, really. Agreed.
In any case, neither of us know the first thing about the victim. We had no reason to kill the man.
Yeah, we already decided that that wasn't true. Okay, here's the thing. Can I examine the omnibus and present specific evidence from inside? Because I don't remember if I can. But like, if I can take this and present it... But no, apparently I can't. I can really only examine things. So the catch for the skylight is on the top side. Yes, but it's not fastened at the moment, so we can slide it open from in here. Huh. Neat. Oh ho ho ho! Found it! Yes, it does open very wide, doesn't it? Wide enough to kick someone like you through, certainly, Mr. Naruhodo. Why someone like me? What is it? Look, just here. Just look at this. That's without question. It's blood. Why would there be a blood stain there? Surely, it can't be unrelated to the case, can it? No, it's certainly related to the case. Ha ha! Alright, here we go. I just needed to see that, and now I can certainly present his evidence. Let's go! On the night in question, the victim was fatally stabbed in the stomach, and immediately afterwards, the victim's body was pushed through the skylight into the cabin below. Those are the facts, and the irrefutable proof remains clearly visible in the omnibus that stands before us today in this very courtroom.
What? That's utter humbug. You can't possibly have any evidence.
No, you can't. I mean, we didn't do it, I tell you. It's impossible.
Irrefutable proof here in this courtroom.
Yeah, you're gonna, like, spin around in your shoes. Whatever.
Counsel,
My lord.
I believe everyone would appreciate a little clarification here. Where exactly within the omnibus is this evidence to which you allude? You will point out what it is that proves the victim fell from the roof deck through the skylight.
Dude, obviously. It's right here. Always has been.
Got it!
By Jupiter, is that blood? Ah,
This bloodstain proves two things. Firstly, when the incident occurred, the skylight of the omnibus was open.
what?
And secondly, the victim was already bleeding when he fell through the opening. Oh my. And so it follows that Mr. McGilded, who was inside the enclosed cabin himself at the time, cannot possibly be guilty of this crime.
No! Order, order, order! But the blade could have been sprayed up there when the fellow was stabbed inside the cabin.
It only found its way into that one particular spot on the skylight. Sure, and that would be very convenient.
Ah,
And let's keep in mind that the skylight catch can only be unfastened from the roof deck. I myself wouldn't have been able to open it now, would I? What? There's no way to know for certain, is there? If the gent really fell through the skylight, I mean. Why don't you have a good look at the floor of the cabin between the two seats, Mr. First? 'Tis all too plain, if you see. There's the aftermath that shows the poor fellow dropped from a fair height right there, so it is.
what? No!
But it can't be. It's all...
Lies! My fellow jury members, I think we can all agree that this is clear proof of the defendant's innocence, can't we?
I believe we can. Yes, sir. It's clear to me now where the filthy rubbish can be found in this courtroom. So they thought they could pull the wool over my eyes, did they? And off she goes. I won't tolerate any of the guild's carriages being solid with blood. I won't tolerate it. Oh, I always knew that nice gentleman who gave us that delightful park couldn't have done such a thing.
On three then, everyone. 1, 2, 3.
Objection!
Give it to me, Van Zeeks. A chilling performance, Mr. McGilded. Oh, and what would ye be referring to now, Lord Van Zeeks?
A bloodstain on the frame of the skylight. Such evidence is null and void.
What? Why?
For one extremely simple reason.
That smear of blood never existed. Perhaps. I mean, I know that the pool of blood on the ground was added post. What are you talking about? It's there for all to see, and it's clearly blood.
I personally attended Scotland Yard's investigation of the omnibus. The officers involved went over the carriage with a fine-tooth comb. So I can state with absolute certainty, no such smear of blood existed in the carriage. At least, not until this trial began.
But
Are you suggesting, Lord Van Zeeks, that this stain of blood was fabricated, my lord? Yes, and while this court has been in session.
what? But where's your proof of it, right? What a palaver. I must say I didn't expect such a crude reasoning from a prosecutor of your standing, Lord Van Zeeks. But I'm Magnus McGilded, a fellow known all over the capital for his fine contributions to public life. I don't take kindly to slander, and I'll fight it to the bitter end. Even if it's rolling off the tongue of the Reaper of the Bailey.
Mr. McGilded, I realize that this is your first appearance in court as the accused. However, I am well aware of your involvement behind the scenes in a great many affairs of dubious nature. You are very adept when it comes to avoiding getting your own hands dirty. And each time it happens that a case you're involved in is investigated, you adapt to the facts.
Adapt the facts? What does that even mean? Well,
When you wield a fortune the size of Mr. McGilded's, however ill-gotten it may be, nothing is impossible. Tampering with evidence, manipulating the scene of a crime, bribing witnesses. I toast your ability to concoct the most convenient of stories, sir.
Tut, tut, Lord Van Zeeks. This'll not do, to be sure. Will it now, Council? Oh, no. I think it's fair to say, this does all sound like a rather far-fetched excuse by a desperate man. The blood on the skylight didn't exist, you say? But, if you will all cast your minds back, is it not true that the omnibus had been there in the courtroom the entire time? How could anyone possibly have put a smear of blood in it without the world and his wife seeing? Isn't that right now, Council? Yes? It's true. The omnibus has been in full view the entire time the court has been in session, except when the smoke grenade went off. Let's not forget that.
My learned friend. Here's to hearing your opinion on this matter, in your own words.
As you wish. Could someone have tampered with the omnibus during this trial? If you're asking me, I think it could have been possible. And it did happen. As a defense lawyer, it's my job to advocate for the defendant as best I can, but still, I feel as though there's something even more important at stake here. There is no evidence to suggest the defendant did as my learned friend suggests. However, in terms of having the opportunity to carry out the alleged tampering, there is one possibility. Oh.
Good gracious! Explain yourself, Counsel.
Yes, there is. It seems my learned Japanese friend has no intention of running from this deceit.
Deceit.
I'm sure everyone still remembers clearly the recess that we were forced to take. As a result of the smoke grenade fired by the witness currently in the stand, Miss Gina Lestrade. I do remember that. It's almost like it just happened. Yeah, I also hate seeing that word, which is why I just replaced it with Japanese. What's going on? Be careful, Mr. Naruhodo. Cover your face.
Bailiff, don't let the accused escape. Secure the omnibus. I hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure the defendant is in custody and clear the courtroom.
Yep, I remember that happening. The courtroom was filled with smoke, and everyone was thrown into confusion. All of us were made to leave this chamber. In that brief interval, under the veil of smoke and in all the chaos, it could have been possible to steal inside the omnibus. I could steal inside, as in enter. But who would have done it? Are you wise? That's not the right accent. What are you trying to pull, ye rotten feckless gouger? Feckless gouger? You're supposed to be defending me. 'Tis a wicked plot. 'Tis a plot to undermine me, so it is. No, it's a plot to uncover the truth.
Whatever you think this is, it changes nothing. The facts are the same.
After this courtroom was evacuated earlier as a result of the smoke grenade, a number of inconsistencies materialized in relation to the omnibus.
Inconsistencies, such as...
To start with, the storage compartment underneath the rear passenger seat. Yeah, it suddenly became empty? Very weird. When the police investigated the omnibus, this compartment was full of the driver's items. Secondly, we have the smear of blood on the edge of the skylight. As I have said, that was not present at the start of the trial this morning.
Unfortunately, Lord Van Zeeks, no one is able to corroborate your claims.
That's true. When the omnibus first wheeled out, both the storage compartment and the skylight were shut.
Accordingly, I'm afraid to say, we cannot establish with any certainty if this evidence is the result of tampering or not.
Indeed, my lord. No doubt there was not a single person who saw fit to verify such things. Actually, I verified them, but like the game doesn't care that I did that. What do you think? Sorry? About the omnibus. Is there anything else unusual about the omnibus? Is there? Wait a minute. Honestly, I have no idea. I'm looking all around at it. And... So, he mentioned under the seat cushion and on the skylight. But, The big pool of blood on the floor, wasn't that also an issue? I feel like it was. Well, I have an inkling. Let's say that. My lord,
Yes, counsel.
there is one further inconsistency. A mark that surely could not have been present at the start of the trial.
What?
What in the devil's name are you going to say now? If you dare to betray me, you little maggot, you'd better start watching your back. Silence, Mr. Gilded. The court awaits the defense's clarification. This trial keeps swinging one way and then the other. I have no idea what the truth is and what's deception. What am I supposed to believe here?
I shall have to ask you to elaborate, counsel. Where exactly is this alleged mark that you claim appeared at some point during the trial?
Well, this huge blood stain that doesn't make any sense to me.
Got it!
If we consider that the victim fell through the skylight onto the floor of the cabin, you would certainly expect to find signs of blood where he landed. But, as far as I recall, this blood stain on the cabin floor was not there when the omnibus was first brought into the courtroom.
Good lord. Yes, I do believe you're correct, counsel.
Well said. Although, as advocate for the defense, one might say that it was a very careless slip of the tongue. I'm an advocate for the truth, god dang it. I don't even know this man. I believe that the bloodstain on the floor is a decisive piece of evidence. But, if the question is whether the evidence is genuine, or whether it was unlawfully fabricated by someone, I feel compelled to admit that there's at least a possibility that the evidence is fake. Man, he just came right out and said it, didn't he? Ah! This trial is over. Mr. McGilded? I've done everything I can possibly do to cooperate with the court, but 'tis all over now. But you're the defendant. 'Tis over, I tell ye! Memory, recollection, what people think they saw, 'tis all a nonsense. Facts are what counts, and the fact is that bloodstain is there, now. Well... And over the course of this desperate trial, long and extremely drawn out as it's been, that good-for-nothing Reaper of the Bailey has failed to present any decisive evidence at all. I mean, that actually is true, yeah. I'm scandalized, so I am. I'd thought better of Lord Van Zieks. Well, my lord?
I must concur with the defendant. The unaffirmed recollections of an individual cannot stand as evidence. At this moment in time, the particular bloodstain in question is very much in existence, and in the absence of any credible method by which to prove its alleged previous non-existence, I regret to say that it would be improper for this trial to continue.
Your lordship can't be serious.
Lord Van Zieks, what is your position?
Prosecution, my lord, has no further witnesses or evidence to present. What? What? That...
Very well. In that case, as I believe we have explored every possible avenue in this matter, I shall proceed to my adjudication.
This can't be it. There has to be more.
As a formality, I am of course obliged to confirm with the defense first.
What formality? As things stand at the moment, it would seem that Mr. McGilded would be found not guilty. Yes, which would mean we've won. Is that really the right outcome here? Is it really alright for the trial to come to an end now with all these unexplained inconsistencies?
Counsel for the defense, your closing statement, please.
My closing statement is that this is all a goddamn charade, and British court of law is like nothing. Yes, my lord. The defense believes... Right? Okay, here's the thing. I know that I promised the dude, whatever his name is, I think it was like Baron something, right? Go to people. Oh no. Male Strongheart, the Lord Chief Justice. He really wants me to find the defendant, not guilty. But the fact of the matter is that at this point, the defendant could definitely be guilty because he fabricated evidence, although I can't prove that. Right, I really... Oof. The defendant could be guilty. That's what I believe. I'm here in this courtroom today to advocate for the defense of my client, Mr. McGilded. However, at this moment in time, I cannot in all good conscience attest fully to the defendant's innocence.
What are you saying, man?
Without any question, there is no conclusive evidence to prove that the defendant is guilty. However, there is also no conclusive evidence to prove that he is innocent.
Good gracious me.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing conclusive at all.
Order. This is unprecedented behavior, counsel. A defense lawyer calling the accused innocence into question. Are you of sound mind?
Oh, 'twas a grand decision to approach you as my lawyer. So it was. A grand decision. What? I must say, I didn't expect quite an exciting spectacle at the end there, but still. Here, have this for your troubles. Oh. Ah. Your job here is done, fella. And some fine work you've done, so you have. What do you mean? 'Tis just as the right honourable gentleman so succinctly put it afore. This trial can't go on anymore. And your closing statement there was, how did he put it now? Nothing more than a formality. Wow, okay. Yeah, that makes you look a little bit guilty, I'm not gonna lie.
I really don't know what to make of all this.
Was the evidence we've seen genuine, or was it fake? His lordship would be fuming. Any unsightly rubbish should be disposed of promptly, as I said. Man, you don't really say a whole lot. The stinking rich are always guilty of something. You, mark my words. I feel terribly ashamed that I ever doubted that lovely man who gave us the lovely park.
Now that proceedings have unfolded in this way, I am compelled to declare a premature end to this trial. Furthermore, the court must accept the defendant's plea.
I thank you kindly, my lord. Alright, this is not a good ending.
I hereby pronounce the verdict of this court.
But we still haven't determined if the bloodstain in the omnibus is genuine or not. We don't know if these witnesses are telling the truth or a pack of lies. We have no idea about the truth.
Lord Van Zieks.
My lord.
The case made by the prosecution was flawed, plain and simple. If indeed the omnibus presented as evidence was tampered with, the prosecution is at fault for allowing such a disgraceful perversion of justice to take place. My sincerest apologies, my lord.
What? What? No. But wait. When we were evacuated from the courtroom, Lord Van Zieks ordered the evidence to be secured.
I'm afraid the prosecution cannot shun responsibility in this matter.
That's so unfair.
The culpability of the defendant has not, at the present time, been established by the court. Consequently, the jury will not be required to prefer judgment. What?
Well, Lord Van Zieks, it's been a pleasure, so it has. And as for you, my dear fella, I couldn't have asked for a better defense.
Do you mean to tell me this has all been a grand waste of time?
'Tis the law of the land, my good man. If you'd like to pursue this matter further, you can always go ahead and try to change the law. Yeah, that's not going to go through.
Magnus McGilded.
Good grief, you've more to say to me, have you?
Just one thing. A warning. This is far from over.
I don't know if they have double jeopardy in Great Britain, but they certainly have it in America, and you can't be tried twice for the same offense. Well, something to be looking forward to then.
I hereby to pronounce the defendants, Mr. Magus McGilted.
Not guilty. Wow, that's just it? That's just it? This confetti doesn't feel very celebratory. Oh, and there's fireworks, too. It seems kind of out of place, given the fact that I don't really agree with the ending of this trial. Huh. I can't believe it. This is an outrage. They should have examined the evidence more. What are you talking about? The man's been cleared. He's innocent. It doesn't really feel right. With the courtroom in pandemonium for the second time that day, the judge delivered his verdict, and my first ever trial in Great Britain came to an abrupt end, with the defendant being found not guilty, ostensibly a victory for us. Yeah, but it doesn't feel very good, does it? Man. I'm probably going to see Mr. McGildet again, huh? Alright, well, we're back in the antechamber. Let's see what has to be said. That certainly was a long trial. Ah, yes, it was. Your first ever trial on foreign soil and your first victory. It was a wonderful performance. My heartfelt congratulations. And to you, Mr. Sato, thank you for your assistance. I suppose we should be happy. The trouble is, we're still completely in the dark about what actually happened. Well, we didn't have enough time. But isn't it wrong? I mean, who was actually responsible for Mr. Mason's death? We don't even know that. The sole aim of the defense is to obtain a verdict that exonerates the defendant. You carried out your duty to perfection. Aye, that you did. Mr. McGill did. Ah, and that girl is with him too. Well, it seems the stories are true. Oh, what stories? About the 6 enormous fireworks they do be letting off when there's a verdict of not guilty. I'm sure you must have seen them by now. Spectacular, wouldn't you say? Yeah, definitely. I'd heard it was a sight to behold, and to be sure it was. And I've got you to thank, I suppose, for having the opportunity to see it. Oh, I don't know about that. I'm not really sure I did anything. What on earth are you saying, fella? How did I walk out of there a free man, then? I don't think it was so much thanks to me as down to your planning. You're a straight-talking fella, aren't you? I must say, you had me astray in the end there once or twice. But you're young and headstrong. Ah, 'tis water under the bridge. Congratulations, Mr. McGildet, on having your name cleared. But nothing's resolved. There's only one thing that matters to me. Oh? They've all seen that I didn't do that odious and absent deed. 'Tis grand, is it not? I suppose it is. And now the fine fellows of Scotland Yard can take matters into hand and sort out any wee details. They'll see it for what it was. They'll get to the truth. I've absolute faith in them, that's all I have. After all, I do be providing a good number of their wages with all the taxes I pay. It's not that funny. So then, as we agreed beforehand, 1,000 guineas for your troubles, fella. Oh, no, I couldn't possibly accept that much. Ara, be whist. You're a humble people, are you, ye from the east? Well, if you insist. But have this still and all. Ye deserve a reward.
Mr. Magnus McGilded.
Yeah? Everything is ready, sir. If you'd like to follow me into the courtroom. Into the courtroom? What's this, officer? 'Tis sooner than I was led to believe. I hope it's not inconvenient, sir. There were some changes to the schedule. Well, I must be making tracks now. 'Tis time for the inspection. Sorry? What inspection? They're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself. And they're gonna let you? They're going to examine it again? Now? After the verdict was passed? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that after the verdict was passed? Naturally, I'm under no obligation to take part in any more of this matter now. But as an upstanding member of London society, I do be doing my best to help where I can. 'Tis a gentleman's duty, so it is. So then, fare ye well. 'Twas an absolute pleasure meeting yous. I can't say the same. You're kind of really weird. I hope you have a great whale of a time while you're studying here in Great Britain. I hope you have a whale of a time. Shamu. And there he goes. A free man. Oh, I forgot she was here too. Please don't fire anything at me. Don't move. Whereas I want to say, get a move on. She really does take forever to load that thing. Miss Lestrade, would you mind putting that thing down? You're a grown-up. Sorry? And I hate all grown-ups. I feel like I'm not really that old. Oh, there you are. Naughty, naughty, running off like that. Is this some kind of a picnic? Who's this little girl now? And taking that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial run of my experimental smoke grenade launcher. Ah. Oh. Actually, I need to make her voice even higher, huh? Oh, do you want to play? You won't beat me. Yeah, this girl's got a rocket launcher. That's sick. Excuse me, but who are you? Oh, good day to you. I'm, well, the inventor, I suppose, of that machine. The inventor? Well, normal smoke grenades are so dull, don't you agree? White, white, and more white. If you have to be surrounded in smoke, at least it could be a pretty color, I thought to myself. Do we have to be shrouded in smoke, though? At all? I just took my eyes off it for a moment when I was changing onto a different omnibus, and she pinched it. Luckily, I fitted it with a telegraphic beacon. What's it? What? I have no idea what this girl is talking about. Anyway, you're coming with me now. Back to my laboratory. What for? To apologize, of course, silly. To my technician. What? You mean, say sorry? You must say sorry when you've done something wrong. Surely an adult has told you that before. An adult? Huh. I don't listen to no adults. Come along then, follow me. Fine, have it your way. Oh good, you see, I knew you'd want to do the right thing in the end. I'm fairly sure that what she wants is not to get shot by that massive gun of yours. I see you play D&D as an artificer, yeah. We'll be leaving now then, bye-bye. I'm so sorry for all the fuss. She was a lively one. Well, do you think perhaps we ought to be on our way now too? Yes, you're right, but where to? Oh, we haven't had time to find a place to stay. No sooner had we arrived in London than we had to rush here. All our traveling cases are still with the bailiff. I was originally planning to spend a day in search of lodgings. But at this late hour in the day, I'm afraid we may be out of luck. I mean, the sun's still out. Don't worry though, I have a plan. If the worst comes to the worst, I've heard of a lovely park where we could spend the night. Please tell me you're not thinking of McGilded Park. I know it may be a little chilly at this time of year, but our youthfulness will see us through. I'm not so sure about that. I think a midwinter London night will freeze a young person solid just as easily as an elderly one. Oh dear, that doesn't sound agreeable. Gosh, the tears in your eyes are killing me. Now I'm starting to regret turning Mr. McGilded down. That 1,000 guineas would have paid for a lovely warm room, more mansion. And so, the trial to determine my worthiness for the study tour was over by the end of our first day in London. However, as we were soon to learn, there were more trying times ahead, just as the Reaper of the Bailey had warned. The case was far from over.
What's going on? Get the fire brigade! Water! Bring water, quick! What the? How did this happen?
I don't know, sir. By the time I got here, it was already engulfed.
No one was supposed to be allowed in here before we started investigating. No. Oh, good God. There's someone in there. Oh. This can't be.
Okay, wow. I can only assume the person in there was Mr. McGilded. I don't know, though. Let's get right into episode 4, shall we? The Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro. And of course, as everyone knows, Kokoro means heart or feeling.
I begin to think, Wilson, said Sholmes, turning his head languidly in my direction, that there is more to this case than that which we have observed. Indeed, that there may be another part to this story that we are yet to discover. His eyes wandered, following the steam rising from his cup of herbal tea, leading him to the distant memory of that snowy evening. To the young lady collapsed on the pavement along Briar Road, and to the knife in her back. Lit in the soft glow of gas lamps, a most extraordinary scene had been set. And under the cover of a light fog, the curtain had risen silently on the insoluble mystery of our invisible killer.
"19th of February, 9:47 a.m., British Supreme Court, Lord Chief Justice's office." "Did you sleep last night, Mr. Naruhodo?" No, not at all." "It was an enormous hotel, wasn't it? The rooms were so luxurious, I felt like we were staying in a palace. And with all the gas lights twinkling, it was brighter than day even in the middle of the night. What about the enormous beds? After my time on the SS Bury, I wasn't going to waste a single inch of that space. I spent the entire night rolling from one side of the mattress to the other. Oh yes, it really was the sort of night you can only dream of normally. Except, when I learned that we owed £3 for the rooms, that dream quickly turned into a nightmare. Oops, sorry about that. The building was so impressive and the entrance so inviting, I just wandered in without thinking. In a lodging house in Japan, that sum of money would put a roof over your head for a whole year. I did try, but I'm afraid I couldn't help my tears when we were presented with the bill. I really am sorry. Well, never mind. We must find some more affordable lodgings straight away, though. If we're not careful, our entire stipend will be used up in 10 days or less. London is a scary place.
Ah, good morning to you all at this early hour.
Oh, yes, well... Good morning to you, Lord Chief Justice. We have come to report on the outcome of the trial at the Old Bailey yesterday. Susato-san is amazing. She doesn't bat an eyelid, even in the presence of the imposing Lord Strongheart.
Yes, I believe you had a very comprehensive initiation into British courtroom practices.
Oh, yes, it was very eye-opening, thank you. And, in accordance with your instructions, Lord Strongheart, Mr. Naruhodo performed his duty to the end.
Yes, I've already been apprised of events. You conducted a remarkable defense. You may consider the test passed.
Oh.
And no longer are you a student from the Empire of Japan. You may henceforth claim to be a fully fledged lawyer. My country is delighted to welcome young talent from such a remote eastern land.
Thank you very much. So, I'm a lawyer now.
Now, in view of your new appointment, I have a fresh case in mind for you. I'd like you to take it on at once. I trust that won't be a problem.
Another case? Already?
Nothing trains a lawyer better than practical experience. I'm sure I don't sense dissatisfaction, do I?
It's just that yesterday's trial ended unusually. I haven't quite come to terms with it.
What's to come to terms with? The man was cleared. What more were you hoping for?
The truth, really. Yeah, I mean, it just ended because there was nothing left to do, really. I don't know, but if they were gonna examine the omnibus more, why didn't they do it before the trial ended? They did it right after the trial ended? That's so weird. Man, these British people are crazy. No wonder Americans fought them off. You guys are insane. I just can't help wondering if Mr. McGilded really was innocent. Mr. Naruhodo, it's just that I never managed to ascertain the truth, and then the trial ended.
Well, you need to let her trouble you for a second longer.
Sorry? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart?
Magnus McGilded passed away immediately following the trial.
I knew it. I knew it was him inside the omnibus. No. What? Mr. McGilded is dead? Where do you get all these doves, man?
I have 19 minutes and 41 seconds until my next engagement.
Time enough to talk. Yeah, let's talk about this. I don't understand. What happened? How can he be dead?
After the trial concluded yesterday, there was a great commotion in the Old Bailey. As you'll presumably recall, an omnibus had been wheeled into the courtroom.
Yes, of course. That was the scene of the crime which Mr. McGilded had been accused of.
Precisely. Well, while the bailiff's attention was diverted by some other matter, the omnibus went up in flames.
No. How could such a thing have happened?
That is being investigated as we speak, but already. The police have identified a corpse found inside the charred shell of the carriage as that of McGilded.
That's awful.
The man must have slipped inside once the bailiff's attention was elsewhere.
That bailiff really needs to pay more attention. Yeah. And how could that have happened?
That is also being investigated as we speak.
Thinking back now, immediately after the trial, Mr. McGilded did mention going back into the courtroom to look at the omnibus. Yeah, he did. He did. Well, I must be making tracks now. Just time for the inspection. Yeah. And you gotta wonder, you know, why he decided to go back. Like, was he gonna plant more evidence? He obviously didn't plan to kill himself. That'd be super weird.
An inspection of the omnibus. Not to my knowledge, I don't believe Scotland Yard had any intention of re-examining the carriage.
But then, who was Mr. McGilded talking about?
Never mind that now. The Yard is making a thorough investigation.
Okay, so the bailiff was in on... Or, the bailiff is definitely in on something. Like, the bailiff is not just a bailiff. Like, we're probably going to get introduced to that person eventually, I would guess.
The matter is no longer any concern of yours. Leave it to the police.
Poor Mr. McGilded. Yeah, I mean, regardless of innocent or guilty, dying like that is not fun.
So, how did you find your first taste of our country's Supreme Court?
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, it was... wow. Mr. Naruhodo means that the whole experience was steeped in the solemnity of Great Britain's long history. It's really a world apart from our own judicial system in Japan, which is only a few short decades old. Short decades? I'm 25. I feel like I've been alive for, you know, a bit of time. Jeez. Wow, Susato-san has such a way with words. And you seem to have a way of failing to find the right ones. Can you hear my thoughts, Susato? Like, I thought the blue was what I'm saying in my brain, but you just can hear me.
The judicial system here is the most advanced in the world. Learn all you can.
I don't know, it still seems not amazing. The most advanced in the world, is it?
It was unfortunate that your very first trial was a simple affair.
Simple? That was simple?
As I believe I mentioned yesterday morning, it was a trial that you couldn't lose.
I don't mean to be contrary, Lord Strongheart, but the case was anything but simple. In fact, we had to bring up like a totally unused protocol from like way back in the day to get through that trial. Otherwise, he would have been found guilty.
The circumstances of the case were so incriminating, I was stunned when I first heard them. In fact, I'm still finding it hard to believe that we managed to get a favorable verdict.
A favorable verdict. Is something funny?
No, my apologies. However, the fact is that you did receive the not guilty verdict you set out to achieve. And that can only be attributed to exceptional talent, wouldn't you agree?
Well, I don't know about that. So you could see my talent already?
Well, never mind. You exceeded my expectations, I freely admit. That much at least is an undeniable truth, which is precisely why I've prepared the new case for you that I mentioned before.
What's going on? What was he going to say before? Alright, well, let's talk about the new case anyway. Could you perhaps give us some more details about the new case you mentioned?
Don't tell me. It's a murder, and the trial starts in 10 minutes. Don't worry, it's nothing so alarming or so quite urgent as your last assignment. In fact, this case is completely different.
Oh, I see. Did he just read my mind? I think everybody can read your mind. I think you're actually saying out loud what you think, and you just don't realize it, Rinosuke.
That is to say, no one has died, as yet. And the trial will not be today. There's plenty of time to do research, or to research the case thoroughly. 23 hours, 43 minutes, and 19 seconds to be precise. Ah, so the trial's tomorrow then.
Alright. Is everything alright? Oh, yes, I'm just a little confused, that's all. Yesterday's trial was, well, it's left me wondering if I'm really cut out for being a lawyer. Well, I mean, you did it, right? Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. I don't know if I could face standing in that courtroom again after Mr. McGilded's trial, especially since he died.
Ah yes, I nearly forgot. There's one similarity with yesterday's case. Once again, there is currently no one to advocate for the defense.
Oh, good, again.
If the situation remains unchanged, the trial will start tomorrow with the defendant unrepresented. And if that happens, I need not remind you of the inevitable outcome.
The most terrible end awaits the defendant.
Yes, that's right.
Here we go again.
Your time is up. You will have to excuse me. I would advise you to begin making preparations for tomorrow's trial. After all, the clock is ever ticking. There is now but 23 hours, 26 minutes, and 39 seconds until the court sits.
Last time he mentioned the 23 hours, he said there was plenty of time.
And one more thing, Mr. Naruhodo. There is something I should like to ask you.
Yeah, what's that?
Yesterday, you remarked upon something. That you intend to see through the will of your late compatriot, Mr. Asogi.
Yeah, I do.
I would be interested to hear what exactly you mean by that. Inside 34 seconds.
Oh, well, Kazuma always used to say, you see, that he wanted to learn how the greatest justice system in the world worked so he could change ours to Japan. Now that he's gone, I'd like to work towards that myself. And there's another thing.
Oh. Another thing? Continue.
On the way here, on the steamship, he said something to me.
There's something very important that I have to do. Something very important? And what exactly would that be?
He never had a chance to tell me. I suppose he would have if he'd ever made it.
You're out of time. Well, thank you for an enlightening discussion.
Mr. Naruhodo, what's all this about? Mr. Asogi never once mentioned anything of the sort to me. Yeah, well, I'm his best friend. Okay? Or actually, I'm not his best friend. We're freaking lovers. I will never find a love like him ever again.
I urge you both to focus your attentions on the matter at hand. I've taken the liberty of summoning the police inspector in charge of the case. He'll be able to apprise you of the details.
How long has he been there?
So, I wish you the best of luck, and bid you farewell.
Wow, there's so many characters. There's something very important that I have to do. Kazuma-sama, what did you mean? I wish I knew, but honestly, he never told me. Anyway, we had better talk to the detective, don't you think? Yes, you're right. I hope I'm just imagining it, but I wouldn't say he looks pleased to see us at all. Oh, he's got a good old bag of chips. I guess I should examine. Oh, dude, I'm so hungry right now. Oh my god, this is gonna kill me. Could we trouble you? What do you think? Lovely weather, isn't it?
What's the weather got to do with anything?
Listen to me, you young Japanese upstart. Some frippery about the weather doesn't get every English gent eaten out of your hand, you know? But Susato-san told me it was foolproof. I'm a busy man, a very busy man. There's a crime scene to investigate, but I'm here having to give the likes of you a talking to. Oh, I'm ever so sorry. Can you imagine what the other officers there will be saying, Haven't seen Gregson anywhere, have you? No, he's too busy with the bigwigs these days. And all because of some bumpkin who's here on a jaunt from a country I've never even heard of. Hear that ripping sound? That's my reputation at the yard going to tatters. There's no need to rip us apart as well. I don't believe we've been introduced. This is Mr. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a defense lawyer. Eh? It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Eh? It's lovely weather we're having today, isn't it? It is unseasonably fine, I grant you. London winters don't see a lot of sunshine. Unbelievable. How does she pull that off? So, Lord Strongheart has asked me to fill you in on the case. The name's Tobias Gregson. Inspector Gregson to you. I'm from Scotland Yard. Gregson? Inspector Gregson? What's the matter with Susato-san? Does this detective's name mean something to her? Alright, let's talk about you. Inspector, are you perhaps the Inspector Gregson? God, she just knows everything, doesn't she? You're acting like you know this man, Miss Susato, but he's a London detective. Oh, I do know him. Very well, in fact. Very well? Yes, he features prominently in The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Oh, in that publication. What's it called again? Rant Magazine? That's right. Inspector Gregson and Mr. Sholmes enjoy a wonderful, friendly rivalry. Really? You rival the great Mr. Sholmes? That's incredible. Oh, well, I don't know about that. Mr. Sholmes isn't a professional like myself, of course, but he does come up with the goods from time to time. Mr. Sholmes is equally complimentary about you, Inspector, isn't he? You've earned his highest praise. Gregson is the pick of the bad lot of all the... Wait. Gregson is the pick of a bad lot of all the Scotland Yarders. Those were his own words. I don't think that's a compliment. That's his highest praises? Well, Mr. Sholmes isn't particularly known for giving compliments, you see. That he is not. And thanks to that magazine, my name's known all over London town now. That's great, isn't it? I have to admit that to start with, I was a little, well, flattered by all the attention. Everyone wanted to shake my hand, and my reputation at the yard went through the roof. Well, that's wonderful. No, it is not. There's nothing more sinister than the man on the street. People are always looking at me now. They're whispering rumors about me under their breath, I'm sure. Rumors? Are you quite sure? He's changed since he started appearing in those stories. The fame's gone to his head. Stuff like that. Gosh, do you really think people are saying such mean-spirited things about you? Like I said, they whisper, so I can't catch exactly what they're saying, but I know what folk are like. I'm sure that's exactly what they're saying. It sure is eggs. Alright, eggs is eggs. I get the feeling this detective could be very hard work. Oh dear. Perhaps a sudden rise to fame does change people. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it happen. So, about the case that the Lord Chief Justice mentioned before. Nothing to tell, really. As far as we're concerned at the yard, it couldn't be simpler. Oh dear, that probably means that as far as we're concerned as lawyers, it couldn't be more complicated. I wish you were wrong about that, but I have a nasty feeling you're right. A young woman was walking along the pavement on Briar Road when she was stabbed from behind. Fortunately, it wasn't fatal, but she's still laid up in hospital, unconscious. That's despicable! What sort of coward would attack the poor woman from behind? I suppose you would have finished whoever it was off with a Susato takedown, would you? That is neither here nor there, Mr. Naruhodo. Mr. Naruhodo. Brace yourself, Ryunosuke. You've angered her now. Anyway, after something of a whirlwind investigation, the criminal was arrested. He barely had time for a cup of tea after the incident took place, to be honest. So, there must have been something left at the scene of the crime that led you directly to the culprit? Or perhaps a reliable witness who recognized the person in question.
Let me stop you right there. You're wasting your time on this one.
Sorry?
There's nothing you can do. There's no way to help the bloke now.
Why ever not?
Simple. The prosecutor that's been assigned to the trial tomorrow is Lord Barak van Zykes. Zykes? Either one. Sounds like you've heard of him then.
Oh yes, we are very familiar with Lord Van Zykes. believed to be the harbinger of death itself. The Reaper of the Bailey. But he did just lose the last case. So, really, what's there to be said? Lord Barak Van Zeeks, who we faced in court only yesterday. Mr. McGilded told us about him before the trial, didn't he? You're not telling me this man murdered Mr. McGilded, right? There's... No. No. No, 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 no. When Van Zeek stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. And in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. Save for the last one, except I guess he was damned in a different way. This Reaper of the Bailey nickname, I suppose he's earned that because every defendant he advocates against is found guilty, is that it? Well, if that's the case, we should inform you, Inspector, that in yesterday's trial against Lord Van Zeeks, Mr. Naruhodo secured a verdict of not guilty.
Huh. And what of it?
Oh, well, I think that means that even against the Reaper of the Bailey, it's not impossible to save the defendant.
No, you really don't have a clue, do you?
What do you mean? Did he just pocket his chips?
What happened to that bloke in the end, eh? He's dead.
Ah,
Magnus McGilded came a cropper in that omnibus when it went up in flames. So you can't rightly say you saved the defendant, can you?
what are you saying?
Look, if Van Zeeks could get dirt to stick on everyone, he'd be a miracle worker. But that's not how it goes. He doesn't work miracles, he works magic. Black magic.
You tell me people just die when they go up against him?
I'd have a good long think about that if I were you.
Are we really supposed to believe that? I don't know, man. Seems a bit far-fetched.
Right, well, I filled you in as requested, and I'm very nearly out of chips. So I'll be heading back to the crime scene now. We're still carrying out a few investigations there.
Honestly, that's a great way to eat potatoes, right? Just chop them up, fry them, salt them, put them in newspaper. I could really go for some of that right now, to be completely honest. It was Briar Road, you say, didn't you? Where the incident took place.
That's correct, ma'am. And if you head over to the holding cells, you can meet the criminal himself.
You've branded him a criminal already?
He's as good as. Shaking like a leaf in his cell he is. It'll give you a good chuckle if nothing else. He's inmate 53. Speak to the jailer and he'll show you the way.
Inmate 53. Thanks. Well, I guess we'd best be going, right? So there's no helping anyone against the Reaper of the Bailey, they say. Is something troubling you, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, slightly, yeah. To tell the truth, when I recall the trial yesterday, I can't stop myself from shaking. The idea of facing the Reaper in court again is... Well, if you think it's too much for you, there's no shame in turning the case down. That takes courage, too. But if the man they've arrested is innocent... You could well imagine he would be shaking like a leaf in his cell, and I, for one, wouldn't find the side of that funny. So, if I'm honest, I'm still reeling from the shock of yesterday's events myself, and I'm really not sure if I'll be able to help this man, whoever he is. But I'd like to try, so I think I'm going to make some inquiries. Will you help? Did you really think you had to ask? After all, I am your judicial assistant. Thank you. So then, shall we? Yes. Let's go. All right. Definitely the first thing I want to do is talk to the guy in the prison cell. Wow, this looks like a dungeon. This does not look like it should be a normal cell. So these are the British prison cells. Oh, they're ghastly. It feels like a dungeon. I said the same thing. Yes, and having experienced it in Japan myself, I can assure you that our wooden cells feel a lot cozier than these cold stone walls. Oh, don't, Mr. Naruhodo. You're making it seem worse. Apparently, our client is in this cell here, but it's so dark at the back there, I can't make him out. I wonder what he's like.
Inmate 53, your legal representative is here to see you.
Stop hiding in the back of the cell and show your face at once. Am I a cat, as yet with no name? Calling me by a number, it's utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable. I refuse to answer. I have no idea what this person looks like, but that's the voice I've chosen to give them so far. Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think is going on here? I have no idea, but I wasn't just hearing things, was I? That tirade of complaints was in Japanese. How was I supposed to know that? Legitimately. Oh? Excuse me, but who?
Shh! Quiet! They're all around, hiding. I know they are. They're watching, listening. Even now, I can sense it.
Right. So, could I ask you...
There you are. You've come to curse me, haven't you? Don't try to hide it. You're a ghost.
A ghost? We mean you no harm, prisoner-san, are you? Japanese, by any chance?
This is beyond my wildest dreams. Forgive me for that outburst before. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's fine. We were just a little surprised, that's all.
Imagine it! It's been 12 long months since I left my hometown, and here I am, in a frightful fix in a foreign land. So, hearing the sweet, sentimental tones of a compatriot's voice here in this damp, dark hellhole was a most monumentally moving moment.
Who could have guessed that this new client Lord Strongheart assigned to us would turn out to be a fellow Japanese?
What compassion my fellow countrymen show. To dispatch a first-class lawyer all the way from Japan to defend a mere foreign student, noble, nurturing, never-failing Nippon.
Oh, I guess they call it that too, so maybe I shouldn't care. A first-class lawyer? Oh dear, I think there's been something of a misunderstanding here.
I wonder, would you be so kind as to tell us what's happened? Why you've been detained as a suspect, for example? Yes, I can, I will. Shan't stay sullen and silent. I'm not quite sure I understand what he means, but he seems happy.
Yes, he does. I just hope he actually has a good reason to be. Thank you for your cooperation. I am a lawyer, as you said. My name is Rinosuke Naruhodo.
And I am Naruhodo-san's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba.
I am a visiting student sent here by our government. Notoriously named Natsume. Soseki Natsume. Alright, well let's talk. Soseki Natsume-san. What an unusual name. Call me Soseki, please. I'm a poet, you see, a writer of haiku. It's something of a nom de plume. A nom de plume? You mean an alias?
That's right, Naruhodo-san. No, don't be so prosaic. It's much more refined than that.
And haiku, that really reminds me of home.
Did I hear you say that you were a visiting student sent over here by our government?
Yes, that's right. A year ago, I was told to go and study English. First I had to suffer that misery, and now this. It's beyond the pale. Suffer that misery? Did you not want to study here? No, I mean, I've had an interest in Great Britain for some years, of course. Oh.
But just because the government tells you to do something doesn't mean you can do it? No.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? If they told me to study English literature, that I would have understood. That's my field. But no, they told me to study the English language. Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable.
Well, to study English literature, wouldn't you have to do that?
I see. Only the other day, I was told to report about my first year here. I tendered a blank piece of paper. Wise words on white washi. Washi? I don't know what that means. Maybe it means paper. You must be a man of great standing.
Oh, yes. So I'm often told. And often like to be told, it seems.
Alright, sure, man. Could you perhaps tell us exactly why you've been arrested, Soseki-san? I didn't do it. I didn't commit that atrocious murder. Murder?
Oh, no. It's all right. The woman didn't actually die, did she? But she was stabbed with a knife right before my eyes. Before your eyes? Well, you mean you saw the attacker? I didn't see anyone. What? If I'd seen the person who did it, do you think I'd be locked up in here? Oh dear. It seems this case is becoming rather complicated. Why me? Why me? Why did that silly woman have to be stabbed in front of me? It's the curse of London. It's incredibly, inexcusably, irritatingly inconvenient. So Soseki-san was there at the scene, but he didn't see the attacker. It's vital that we find out more about the case. Yeah, let's talk. It was an accursed evening, just after the snow had started to clear and heavy with fog. I'd been to the bookshop to buy some books, and I was on my way back to my accursed lodgings. Sure, the bookshop wasn't accursed too. As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. The woman, wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. How terrible. I called out to the woman, but she didn't move. It was like a ghostly, ghoulish, grim graveyard. Slight exaggeration there, perhaps. I was so terrified, I had to get away from there. So I ran, as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings. That's not good. They'll say it was shameful, I know, to run away like that. Tell me, Soseki-san, was the victim of an acquaintance of yours? Don't be ridiculous. Do you think I know of any of these fair-haired English? And a young woman at that. Okay, but you've been here for a year. You tell me you made like 0 friends? I'm diffident, shy, timid, unsure. I can't talk to people. I see. A young woman unknown to Soseki-san. And at the time it happened, who else did you see nearby? Did anybody pass you? Regrettably, apart from myself and the woman, I didn't see a soul. No one? Oh, great. So the victim was unknown to you and there was nobody else on the street at the time. That creates something of a conundrum, doesn't it? What conundrum? Dude, the bags under your eyes are so deep. They're like wells. What do you mean, Susato-san? What's the conundrum? Well, if it was Soseki-san has just told us the truth, there's something I can't explain. He says that he didn't know the victim and that there was no one else at the scene. Then he apparently fled without having been seen. I did. But if that's the case, surely this man has to be the culprit. Ah, what did you just say? Nothing. I didn't say anything. Oops. Perhaps I thought that a little loudly. Yeah, all of your thoughts are very loud. Actually, that's not what was troubling me. What I was thinking was, how did Satsuki-san actually come to be arrested? Sorry? He didn't touch the victim, and there was nobody at the scene to see him. So how did the police ever discover that he was there in the first place? Oh, yeah, she's right. It was him. That accursed great detective. He led the police to me. Oh, Erlock Sholmes. Of all the bad luck. Accursed great detective? Could it be? I shall never forget that man's name as long as I live, with his haughty laugh and his self-proclaimed greatness. Brash, big-headed busybody, begone! May you be accursed until the end of your days, Erlock Sholmes. I knew it. Mr. Sholmes? Yeah, of course it was him. Well, I didn't expect to hear that name for this man's lips, that's for sure. It was the morning after that nightmare had unfolded on the pavement before me. I was gnawing on a sliver of hard cheese when some men suddenly burst in through the door. They started shouting at me. This is the police, put the weapon down. Yes, it was a thin sliver, and yes, it was hard, but I wasn't eating a weapon. Disgusting dietary discrimination devils! You clearly had a trying morning yesterday. And there he was, in the middle of all the policemen, grinning like a Cheshire cat. That Erlock Sholmes. It's actually just Erlock Sholmes. He's English. I've since found out that he's a famous name in detection here in London. Yes, the great detective is really very well known. And his overly sharp mind managed to deduce my whereabouts, apparently. He thinks I'm the knife-wielding madman. Me, this weak, stooped kitten of a man. I wonder what great deduction process led him to the conclusion this time. Do you mean to say that Mr. Sholmes' deduction was the only reason that the police arrested you? That would be really most unreasonable. Well, the thing is, I was thrown into a panic when they barged their way in. Of course you were. That's only natural. I was terrified and trembling, and they kept throwing question after question at me. It's in impossible English. Fiendish foreign flim-flammery. Well, we are in England. You can't really blame them for questioning you in English. Good point, but my mind went blank. I knew I had to answer, and I didn't know what to say. So I just kept repeating things like, yes, I do, and I'm fine. The next thing I knew, I was in manacles, and before I knew it, I was thrown in here. Oh, dear. I'm afraid that's hardly surprising. I'm fine? He's not fine now. Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Oh, you can just call me Naruhodo, and when we're speaking English, a simple Mr. is more than enough. Oh, yes, all right, yes, they've really got to me. This country is poisoning my mind. But please, I beg you to defend me in court tomorrow. You can tell them what really happened. You'll do it, won't you? Well, why is it so hard to say yes to me? Well, the thing is, I'm just a student like yourself on a study tour. A student? I have defended a case in the Old Bailey, only the one though. But at this moment in time, I really don't know what I'm supposed to believe in. I'm confused about what justice in this country even means. Oh, Naruhodo-san, I'm not even the foreign student who was supposed to be here. I'm a sort of locum lawyer, I suppose. But that armband, that's the mark of a defense lawyer from our great empire. It's a keepsake from the man who should have been here. He was my best friend. A keepsake. I know exactly what they're saying about me. Oh, what do you mean? The lawyers, all the British defense lawyers, they won't defend me. Goodness, why do you say that? For the same reason as you noted before. When it happened, there was only the victim and myself around, and I ran away from the scene of the crime. I'm not a fool. I know it looks as though I must be the culprit. It must be very hard for you, Soseki-san. And anyway, I'm a student from overseas. I'm just a foreign nobody then, someone not to be trusted. I heard them openly laughing about me before, in my earshot, without any compunction at all. Any trial for this man would be a waste of time, they said, and of course the Fortner did it. They even had the gall to say the man doesn't understand half of what's being said anyway. That's awful. They're wrong. I've studied more English than half of the policemen out there on the streets. I've traveled halfway around the world to learn about these people's country and its great history. But no one here wants to listen to a man with a strange accent. They all hate me. So, at the very least, I'd like to entrust my fate to someone who can listen to me in my native tongue. It's a good point. You could do it, couldn't you? When I look into your eyes, I can see it. I can see what you've been through. Soseki-san, it's just that... give me a little time, please. I'll do what I can for the time being. What do you mean? We shall investigate the case as thoroughly as possible. If we can find some clues, it will give us a much better chance, I'm sure. Oh, yes, thank you. I'll be here, all alone, waiting for you, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. We should be going then, Naruhodo-san. We have a case to prepare for. Alright. Let's get moving to Briar Road. Maybe I should have gone here first, but I really wanted to talk to the guy. Wow, that bike is messed up for some reason. This is a nice looking street. So this is where it happened. Briar Road. Ah, look, Mr. Naruhodo. Look at that regulation metal helmet. It's unmistakable. The men of Scotland Yard are here. They're investigating as we speak. That is their job, you know. But Mr. Naruhodo, to see one with my own eyes. They're often depicted in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes, but I never dreamt I'd see them this close. I'd never come this close to a real Bobby's helmet. What? The helmet? Of course. I have to try one on one day. Well, I hope your hatty dreams come true. Well, here's the guy himself with more chips.
What's the Japanese delegation doing here?
Oh, Inspector Gregson.
This isn't on the tourist trail, as I'm fairly sure you're already aware.
Yes, of course. We're here to investigate.
So you've been to the holding cells then? What do you make of the criminal?
He's not a criminal, as you put it, Inspector. He's a suspect.
Well, we'll see about that. You Japanese like to stick together, I suppose. Do you not like to stick together with British people? Maybe not. Well, do what you will. It doesn't bother me. The bloke's in court tomorrow, whatever happens. And the verdict's a foregone conclusion. Ugh, the stone-cold air of rejection.
Take heart. London at this time of year is full of stone-cold air.
That makes it worse somehow. Alright, well, I'd rather examine the crime scene than talk to you. That's one of the officers from Scotland Yard. The police are making sure the crime scene is undisturbed. I have a feeling that if we wander too close, we'll be clapped in irons.
I think perhaps you're being a little overcautious. We've done nothing wrong, so we have no cause for concern.
Oh, no, I'm not getting caught out again. Twice is enough. Twice, I found myself in handcuffs despite not knowing a thing about what's going on.
Yes, you've had some dreadful experiences. I'm sure that it's that wide-eyed look of panic you're so prone to, it does you no favors at all.
I mean, she has a good point there, gotta say. Actually, I'm probably gonna have to talk with you, I guess.
Tell me about Scotland Yard, Inspector. Ever since I read about it in the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I've been fascinated by the place.
The Yard is the most sophisticated police and organization you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am.
Oh, and you know I've always dreamt of wearing a real Bobby's helmet.
It does make them look the part. Seeing that policeman there with his helmet on, you certainly get the sense that this is a man who will take no nonsense in his duty of protecting the city.
Oh yes, doesn't he look wonderful?
Being a London Bobby is hard going, I can tell you.
Oh, really?
First thing in the morning, you know what he does? Goes round and rouses all the laborers on his beat so they can get off to work.
What? He wakes people up?
Yep. Raps on their windows with a long pole. Did it myself going back a bit.
I had no idea.
The Bobby works for the people of the town. It's just another one of his duties. After that, he starts tirelessly patrolling the streets all day long. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance.
That's kind of a long distance, yeah.
I can't really imagine how far that is, but it sounds like a long way.
Let me see. 20 miles. That's approximately the distance from Tokyo to Yokohama.
On foot? That's definitely taking things a step too far. And when it gets dark, of course, he has the important job of lighting all the gas street lamps. Oh my god, I thought lamp lighters were their own people, not the Bobbies.
Oh my.
And I suppose in between of all those duties, Bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well.
And chase after criminals trying to evade the law.
I'm not sure you could call it in between exactly. More alongside, but yes. They're expected to handle those jobs as well. We do have men keeling over from time to time, I admit.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of work. Jeez. I'd always dreamed of wearing one of those helmets, as I said. But it's with a heavy heart that I shall have to relinquish that dream to you, Mr. Naruhodo.
Your heavy heart will be my heavy head if you do. Alright, let's talk about the case. It happened around 5 in the evening 2 days ago. Just there on that open bit of pavement. The victim, a young woman, was stabbed with a blade from behind. Is it right that the lady is still unconscious now? You mentioned that she's being treated in hospital. I never said she was a lady. Truth is, unless she comes around pretty smartish, we won't be able to find out much about her at all. I suppose that means they haven't been able to take a statement from her, of course. Here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want.
Really? Are you sure?
It's the odd policy to give lawyers, defendant suspects the odd bit of information to go on. I haven't actually accepted the job yet, but still. No, you've accepted it. Come on.
Thank you, Inspector. We gratefully accept.
The local map has been entered in the court record.
Thanks a lot. Anyway, as far as we know, there was no one else here on the scene of the crime other than the victim and your fellow countrymen. So, who did it, do you think? Not much of a head-scratcher, is it? Well, I know Mr. Natsume is also claiming not to have seen anyone else around, but just because he didn't see anyone, it doesn't mean we can be so sure that nobody else was present. I'm sorry to have to tell you, but we most certainly can be sure. How? Because, ma'am, the precise moment of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed. It... what? We have 2 very reliable witnesses, no less. Ah! It was a typical foggy London day, and your client obviously didn't see them. There were witnesses now? Oh, goodness. Who are these witnesses, Inspector? A fellow and his wife, and the man's one of the most reliable and respected citizens in all of London. He's a copper from Scotland Yard. Ah! A policeman? That might change things. And this policeman just happened to be there at the exact moment the woman was attacked? Nothing peculiar about that, ma'am. Part and parcel of being a bobby, catching them banging the act and all that. Do you think it might be possible for us to ask that policeman a few questions? Be my guest. You can ask him what you like. In court tomorrow. Right. Oh. I've no doubt he'll be summoned as a witness, so that'll give you something to look forward to. That's that, then. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems. A policeman witnessed the incident. As your judicial assistant, I must warn you that this could make our job very difficult indeed. Yes, as a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me about that too. Oh yes, one more thing, Inspector. What? The person who led you to the suspect. I hear that was Mr. Erlock Sholmes. What are you bringing him up for? Oh, was it something I said? The color has been drained from his cheeks. Let's talk about it. Who did you hear that name from? Oh, well, it was Mr. Natsume who mentioned it. He said that Mr. Sholmes was with the police when they entered his lodgings. I'm sure it was the result of one of Mr. Sholmes' inspirational great deductions. Fiddle-faddle. Man's an amateur, and I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere. Oh, I don't know where he gets his information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime, wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish, and before you know it, he claims to have solved the case. Yes, he's quite astounding, isn't he? He is a great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he? Gibble gabble. Ever seen this before? Oh, yes, that's Rance Magazine. The wonderful publication in which the adventures of Erlock Sholmes appears. Yes, well, that wonderful publication, as you put it, sees fit to include several of the Yard's detectives in its stories. And the so-called great detective makes a mockery of all of us. If you ask anyone at the Yard, it's a misadventure to be included in any Erlock Sholmes tale at all. Well, I suppose there is an element of that. We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be frumped by the public thanks to that obnoxious detective. The man's as dangerous to us at Scotland Yard as he is to all our criminals. That can't really be true, can it, Inspector? Clearly, the great detective and the police have a complex relationship. Well, that twitchy Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow. Are you going to defend him or not? Well, makes no difference to me, but I will just say this. No London lawyer worth his salt would touch that case with a barge pole. Because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper of the Bailey, you mean? There's no way to save the man now. It's a waste of time trying. It is all a bit strange, though. Sorry? The Reaper. He hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now. Yes, we did hear something to that effect. And the only people he usually bothers with are the real scum. The master criminals. The violent ones. But master criminals? The violent ones? That's right. He handpicks his victims, only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins. But Mr. Natsume wouldn't hang for what he's accused, surely. That's just my point, Sunshine. Yes, the young woman was stabbed, but it didn't kill her. Couldn't even say the intent was there. So this isn't the sort of case I'd be expecting for the Reaper to want to sink his teeth into, for want of a better phrase. Well, it's not exactly a minor infraction, is it? No, there's gotta be more to it. Some reason he's taken an interest. Really? What sort of reason, Inspector? You think I can tell what's going on inside the head of the Lord of Darkness? That's a cool name. You'll have to ask him yourself at tomorrow's trial. Are we really going to have to face the Reaper again? The Lord of Darkness, as he put it? Ugh. Well, I don't think we're going to get any more useful information out of the detective. Mr. Naruhodo, can I make a suggestion? Oh, yes, what is it? Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this. By him, do you mean Mr. Sholmes? Yes, Mr. Erlock Sholmes, exactly. Oh, look at those shining eyes. You can't wait, can you? Well, Mr. Natsume did blame Mr. Sholmes for all this, didn't he? Yes, he did. He really did. Which makes him an involved party in the case. Are you just going to ignore that? I hope not. I assure you, it's not simply my selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again. The trouble is, we have no idea the man's address even. Oh, it's always on Baker Street. Everybody knows that. Come on. It's Baker Street. How do you know that? It's in the stories, of course. 21B Baker Street, the most famous address in the world. Oh, I see. Well, there's nothing stopping us from going, I suppose. We'd better try to find our way there before Susato-san gets any more excited and unpredictable. Hooray! I'll summon a carriage! So, we're going to have a reunion already with the great detective, Mr. Erlock Sholmes. I mean, we all knew it was coming. Come on. Yes, I know a new location was added. That's why we're doing this. Gosh. Oh.
Thank you very much. It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day. Thanks again. This is it. The residence of Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
Yeah, this looks just about how I'd imagine it. So this is where the great detective makes his living. It feels surreal to be here somehow. Wow, cool stuff. Is it as described in the stories, Miss Susato? Susato-san? Many famous cases have been solved here in this very room. Oh, I suppose they must have been, yes. I've never read the story, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be. The detective chases the villain relentlessly as he disappears into the fog down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it, the romanticism. Can't you feel your heart thumping in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, I suppose I can, yes. So, if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a while longer. Please, don't mind me. She's obsessed. Yeah, my dad would be too. He loves this stuff. Well, it looks like our detective friend isn't home at present. Excuse me, is anybody home? Oh, do we have a visitor? Oh, Iris, hello. Hello, is it a big new case for Mr. Sholmes? Hello. Wait, aren't you... Oh, how rude of me. I'll go and make some tea at once. I'm sure it's the same girl. Mr. Sato, did you see the girl who was just here? Oh yes, isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the King of Bohemia came to this very room to ask Mr. Sholmes to take on this case. The King of Bowaria? King Wilhelm Gotthard Sigismund von Ornstein, of course. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Forget the adventures of Erlock Sholmes for a moment and look over there. The tea's brewed, and I have a freshly baked cake as well. Ah, it's you. I knew it. Susato-san recognizes her too. Yep. Yeah, this was from back then. Which just happened. And Gina's involved too, which actually makes sense, because I think Sherlock Holmes does like employing the urchins of the street every so and again. It's the girl who turned up at the end of Mr. McGilded's trial in the defense antechamber.
I've never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Poor you, having to get straight to work when you've only just arrived in London.
Oh, yes, it was challenging.
Well, try this tea. It's my special blend, you know.
Oh, thank you. Is tea supposed to look that color?
Oh my, what a fragrant yet mellow flavor. Hooray, it's a winner! I tried blending different leaves designed to alleviate fatigue, you see. You must be exhausted after your long voyage here, and you have another ticklish trial tomorrow. Oh, and you're to defend a Japanese man. I do wish you lots and lots of luck.
Did Mr. Sholmes tell you about us by any chance?
Oh, you know Hurley, do you?
Hurley? Mr. Sholmes to you, surely. Mr. Sholmes was a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see.
Was he really? Well, I had no idea. I'm afraid Hurley's out on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas.
Does he... I can imagine how she would have been voiced if given a Japanese voice, but I can't do that. So, wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time ever yesterday after the trial, and only briefly at that. How on earth does she know so much about us? Did she deduce all those things, you think?
And perhaps more to the point,
why is she here in Mr. Sholmes' suite?
Oh, silly me. I haven't introduced myself, have I? It's a great pleasure to meet you both. My name is Iris Wilson. I live here together with Hurley.
Okay, cool. Ah, Iris is it? What a lovely name.
What? What's the matter? No, wait. This can't be. Did you say that your name is Wilson?
What's the matter with Susato-san? Why is she so fluttered all of a sudden? Well, because Iris Wilson is the Watson of this story.
Yes, that's right. And what are your names?
Oh, I'm Rinosuke Naruhodo, a lawyer from Japan.
Oh, sorry. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba. It's wonderful to meet you. Lovely. Susie and Runo. Got it.
That's not at all what we said.
Susie?
And Runo? There's more to this girl than meets the eye. I have so many questions for her, I don't know where to start.
Yes, and so do I.
We have a lot to talk about. It was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey.
Yes, that's right. You were ever so helpful. Thank you very much.
Oh no, not at all. I'm so sorry that we couldn't have been more welcoming. Though at the time, we did have a rather large gun pointed at us. Yeah!
Like this?
Go.
Thinking back now, you left with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you?
Oh yes, that awkward witness, Gina Lestrade.
Oh, Ginny? Yes, she's a professional pickpocket.
So we found out.
It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that.
Are you referring to that trial-disrupting gun-like contraption?
Exactly. So I followed her, you see, to get it back. Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions.
Dude, always a good idea, I think. This girl is dangerous.
Anyway, I brought Jenny back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician.
Sorry, your technician?
Hurley, of course, silly.
Hurley?
Yes, Urlock Sholmes. We live here together.
I had no idea the great detective has such an interesting young daughter.
Daughter? Not likely.
What?
I wouldn't call him Hurley if he was my father, would I?
Yeah, got a point.
Well then, what is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes? Well, I'd expect you'd find out that lodgings of any kind in London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate.
Yeah, that's what I do. Your roommates?
And they were roommates. I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris, but how old are you? 10 at last this year.
That's young. Why aren't you living with your parents? Yeah, what of your mother and father?
Oh no, they're not around.
Oh, I see. I wonder what the story is there.
Well, so be it. Oh yes, there's something I must ask you. Of course. Go ahead, Susie. I'm a very great fan of The Adventures of Urlock Sholmes, and... Oh, you have a copy of Rance magazine! Yes, I read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship. Oh, this is so exciting! My stories are being read on the other side of the world.
My stories?
That's right. Hurley is always solving such amazing cases, you see, and he tells me all about them. They really are quite fascinating. It would be such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Goodness. Last night, he was telling me about a new case he just solved on a steamship traveling from a faraway land. So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came.
So you are the author?
Yes. I'll let you in on a secret if you like. I'm going to call this latest adventure The Speckled Band.
The Speckled Band? That's certainly very familiar.
Of course, I always change one or two details in the stories, here and there. This time, I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble.
Oh, that was Mr. Sholmes' first thought as well, actually.
Yes, and of course I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but it's a story. Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling, I think, don't you?
Yeah, of course. So, do you mean to say, are the stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in Rance magazine?
All written by me? Yes, on my wonderful and very modern typewriter.
But all the stories I've ever read are written by a doctor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson. Susato-san's getting more and more worked up.
Ah, yes, that's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson. But what about the doctor of medicine part? That's all true, too. I'm a doctor of medicine.
At age 10?
At 10 years old.
Well, that's quite incredible.
But Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Ah, yes. I did alter the setting slightly for the stories to be more compelling.
Oh.
Well, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow?
It does sound a little strange, agreed.
I suppose it does, yes.
Poor Susato-san. She looks like her whole world has just fallen apart. About before.
Yes, what's on your mind, Runo? Do tell me.
How did you know that I was a lawyer and that we just arrived in London, I mean?
Yes. Oh, and that we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all of that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please, tell us how you did it. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted, although there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin.
The goggles have come down.
Iris Wilson is proud to present her logic and reasoning spectacular.
She does the same thing.
First of all, I knew already that you were a lawyer, Runo. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defendant's antechamber.
But you also said that we'd only just arrived in London. How did you know that?
I observed a passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket.
That makes it really obvious, huh?
So I was reasonably confident that you must have only just arrived in the country. And on top of that, you accepted a case against that particular prosecutor, telling me you were unaware of London's court affairs.
The Reaper of the Bailey? I walked right into that one, didn't I?
Then I noticed a red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with a suspect, weren't you? Earlier today. They use those stamps to keep a close eye on comings and goings, you see. I didn't realize. And a red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates.
Oh.
So, that told me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus McGilded, the two of you had already had cause to visit a foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particularly sad expression on your face, so I concluded that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or a relative. That led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case.
I see. But how could you have known that the trial is tomorrow?
Well, having barely been home a few hours yesterday, Hurley solved yet another case. It obviously amused him. He told me that he'd caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling.
A Japanese man? Well, that must have been Mr. Natsume.
Now, Runo has that fancy Japanese sword. And I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it was clear to me that you both came from Japan yourselves, So I put two and two together and decided you must be defending the Japanese man Hardly caught. And there was only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case.
That is literally spot on. Not a single part was wrong.
There's a note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. Hurley is always stabbing his nose with a knife, you know. He's just silly. And that's all there is to it, really. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions. Well, was it a winner? Were my deductions correct?
They were spot on.
That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction.
You even managed to get the certain something of Mr. Sholmes' delivery.
Oh, well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that. This is really very good news. You could tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris? Please.
Please do. I'm literally all ears. I'm just covered in them. See, these things, it's really just ears repurposed for this. So yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying?
Yes. Hurley had just arrived back in London after his sea voyage, but the police were waiting for him in the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene.
Ah, the great detective is a popular man, it seems.
Apparently, a woman was stabbed on a quiet street somewhere in town. There were witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking, stooped man running away from the scene. A short, shifty-looking, stooped man. Mr. Natsume, beyond any doubt.
Soseki-san said that he didn't see anybody else on the street at all, but it seems that there were witnesses after all.
Hurley used his great deductive powers to determine the man's address. It was a lodging room very nearby. He went directly there with the police, and what did they find? A short, shifty-looking, stooped man shivering in fear.
Mr. Sholmes' great deductions certainly hit the mark that time.
Of course it did. He's a great detective.
Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow is too soon for the trial, isn't it?
Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly. Hurley says that London is rife with crime.
Oh.
Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it, apparently. Oh dear, I hadn't realized the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying the criminals in court. Staff and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person. That's terrible. I suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system.
I suppose it is, but in that case, I don't hold out much hope for Soseki-san. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. This has been very informative.
Oh, you're most welcome. I have had so much fun.
Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you guessed, we'd like to ask him some questions about this case as well.
Ah, well, I expect Hurley is still investigating the scene.
Of the case involving Mr. Natsume, you mean?
Yes, Mr. Natsume? Hurley said he was going to the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there.
Iris, do you know where those lodgings are?
Well, I imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Did you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson while you were there?
Yes, we know Inspector Gregson.
Ah, goody. In that case, give Gregsy this from me, would you? If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you what you want to know.
What is this?
A 5-shilling piece and a postcard, it seems.
Alright, cool.
It reads, "Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem."
Gosh, this will make the inspector help us, will it? Well, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try. You're very helpful.
Good luck then. I'm going to return to writing my manuscript, The Speckled Band. And I'll be making more special blends of tea, so come back again soon. We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris.
God, I really hope that I have a daughter someday, just so I can spoil her rotten and just... Man. I guess I'm just at that age, I don't know.
Well, Mr. Naruhodo, it's back to the scene of the crime.
so it's somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the men of Scotland Yard at all. We headed back to the scene with Iris's curious note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. Oh, why does it keep doing like a random flash there? To be continued. Alright, great timing actually, because it just hit 3 hours on the stream, and I am super freaking hungry. So, let's save progress and get on out of here. Thanks everybody for watching, of course. I'm not going to be able to stream any more of this tonight, though I would like to. So I'll probably next be streaming this tomorrow morning, and then maybe again in the night. We'll see. But I'll start sometime around 9 a.m. Eastern, so be ready for it if you want to watch more. Alright, exit the game. Don't need to save. It's totally fine, don't even worry about it. But I will see you guys tomorrow.